All right, all right. What episode is this? 22? 23? 22? The Easter egg? Yeah, I did change the Easter egg. We got because it's the new Easter egg. Wait,
easy one.
3, 4. Okay. Hope it what? Don't be a hater. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Oh my God, it's episode what? 22? We said, or is it 23?
She said 22.
She 22. Episode 22. Welcome to Unwanted Feedback, where we're giving you our thoughts on stuff you didn't know you need opinions on. Now, this week, it's going to be a little different. You know, every week we usually have our, what do you call it? Our social / what's happening in pop culture conversations. We talk about, you know, what really is going on in the world. And that's usually where we give the opinions that no one gives a shit about. But we do it every week.
Amen, bro. Whatever's
you know, every week we just talk about random things. But this week we have a special guest. So you guys may have seen my story on Instagram this week. I had posted me climbing up a big wall. Now I have taken up this new hobby of climbing. And it's a new thing that's taken over the nation. It's big all over the world. And I moved up here to New York, met some great guys at work, and it's been amazing. A new journey of climbing. I was scared as hell climbing up that tall ass wall, but I was there with my boy Dylan, who initially, you know, introduced me to the sport. I guess it's a sport.
Oh yeah, definitely sport.
So I have my guy here, Mr. Ian Koenig.
I feel very welcome.
Did I say that right?
I feel like, oh yeah, Koenig.
Koenig. I keep saying Nick.
We've Americanized it though, you know? So it's no one's right.
You know,
if you ask a German, it's wrong.
But see, it's the Nig. I'm quick to say Nig. You know, black kind of thing.
I hear you, but that's you know how it goes. Yeah. But I had the umlaut originally, but it's the family story. The umlaut are the dots above the O, and that makes a specific sound in German.
Umlaut is the two eyes.
Yeah, kind of like an accent line or something in a different language, right? But in Germany, it's called an umlaut, and I had it above the O, and Koenig means king in German. Okay, damn. And during World War II, if you can imagine, there was a lot of motivations to not be identified as German, maybe ancestors of somebody that maybe was like politically associated.
Yeah.
So in the 40s, they believe that my great-grandfather changed the name, took out the umlaut, and tried to make it sound less German, but he didn't do a good job about it.
Yeah, because that's not an American.
He kind of just made it sound stupid, but it's all good. I'm a king.
So it would sound like what? If they had the
that's where I don't really know, but that's why I think Germans would pronounce it differently for sure. Though. They would. It's a whole different sound that we don't make in our language necessarily as for O. Okay, right. So I know that, but I don't know what it would sound.
You said an umlaut.
Umlaut.
Okay,
that's what it's called.
Damn, babe, I'm gonna put the umlaut over the O in my name.
Yeah, right.
But shoot, we're here with climber extraordinaire.
Yeah, you said that you started climbing with Dylan. I taught Dylan how to rock climb at the place where you went first rock climbing. I started my climbing journey when I was only like 8 or 9 years old. Okay. My dad, he taught himself how to climb in the Shawgunk Mountains. So it's a place in upstate New York. It's kind of close to New Paltz, if anybody knows that town. It's really beautiful mountain range, overlooks the Hudson Valley. It's world renowned for rock climbing, and people come from Canada. People fly across the country or across the world in theory. I've met lots of people from outside of the U.S. at this place. Basically, it's just renowned for rock climbing. Right. Some of the best walls, some of the easiest access. And my dad learned how to do it there out of books, out of magazines and catalogs. He bought gear in the 80s. He's an engineer. Tough. He's a really analytical guy. And he's really intelligent. And no challenge is too big for him. No math is too hard. So obviously, teaching yourself how to outdoor rock climb was something that was a fun challenge for him. And when he had kids, he stopped doing it, and then he had a second child, me. And by the time I was about 7 or 8,
are you the baby?
I'm the second one, so I'm the baby. Yeah, I'm the second of 2, so I'm definitely the baby.
Wait, the second of 2, but you are the baby. Why did you say baby? See, when you say
I'm the baby of the baby. Like my dad had my sister, and he stopped climbing at that time. That was 5 years before.
She's not a baby, so you can't say baby.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
When you say baby,
she's a baby still, even though she's my older sister. No, I'm kidding. But definitely, when I was about 7 or 8, my dad had always taken us like outdoor hiking and always was outside. I did a lot of sports, but when I was around that time, we started to do long backpacking is what we would refer to it as. You just have a pack or you sleep overnight, you sleep on the top of a mountain or whatnot. It wasn't ever too hard. We would always do easy ones because I was not built for the challenges yet.
Wait, how old were you?
I was 8 or 9, maybe the youngest for my first few times going backpacking.
And you're sleeping on top of mountains?
Yeah, nothing big. We're talking about like maybe 2,000-3,000 footers in the Catskills. We're not escaping the tree line. I'm sure we'll get into that at some point. But, we're not taking immense risk. We're hiking, 12 miles, easy for a younger person. Easy for an older person that's like a full-grown adult, but super challenging maybe for like a child, right?
Yeah.
My dad was, and he still is, he's always about, doing things that are really hard and achieving a goal, and he is super okay with failure. And that's something that I've learned a lot from my dad, but he doesn't ever, no goal is too big. He'll do everything to prepare for it, and he'll believe he can achieve it. And I think that's because he's so analytical and he believes he's got the formula to figure it out. And so I got into climbing because of him. We'd done all these backpacking trips for years. And when I was about 13, he had asked me a question. I don't know if that was exactly when I was 13, but I remember the conversation. He had proposed doing a mountain that looked really interesting, and he had told me all about, we'd have to go above the tree line, and we'd have to do this, and have to bring this kind of equipment. And he kind of held it to the end where he's like, and we'd have to rock climb. We'd have to learn how to like hold each other on the rope. And I remember being really intimidated by that. And
he would drop that at the end.
And he was all about it, though. He was all about it. And so, absolutely, like, he got me on the line. He got me on the line. And so I remember saying yes to it. And then I remember we went out to the Shawgunks where he had learned how to climb in, like after college. Shawgunk Mountain. So SHAW. Screw me if I know how to spell it, but upstate New York by New Paltz. And so he had taught himself there when he was like post college years, when he was a young guy. And he hadn't really taken these skills out or used them much since he had me and my sister. But he really wanted to do these new mountains that essentially when you're mountaineering or backpacking, you can choose to do climbs or routes that don't involve rock climbing, or they involve scrambling. Let's say scrambling is when you're climbing with your hands and your feet, but you're not concerned about falling. You're not exposed maybe, so you don't feel the need for protection like a rope, right? Okay. And so you could do things like that. That's my first introduction. And that's a free climb? Right? That's free climbing, but not in the expanse that you would imagine somebody like Alex Honnold, the free solo guy that climbs without a rope on real mountain walls, right? Wild. So it's not far off from that. We're talking about an incline, maybe instead of 90 degrees, we're talking about 45 degrees. Oh, okay. But if you fall down that slope, you're toast. You're going to break a leg. Something bad's going to happen. And so that's my first introduction. Very basic scrambling where you don't need to rock climb. But the goal is to get to the top of the mountain. That's why you're climbing it, right? Yeah. I'm not doing it for the sport, which I definitely become more interested in as I get older. But at first, my initial interest in rock climbing is I hike with my dad and I backpack and climb mountains with my dad. And he proposes that if we want to keep climbing these mountains, the more interesting ones, we got to rock climb. And so we go to the Shawgunks. We learn how to do the basics. I remember the very first time you did your rope climbing at the gym. In a gym environment, it's set up with absolute control. You have all the variables accounted for, the best of the best equipment, bolted into the wall, steel beam. The first time I ever rock climbed, my dad dragged me out to a cliff. We hiked along the top of the cliff, so I can't see the wall we're going to climb. And we're about 60 feet above the wall we're going to end up climbing, and he explains to me that we're going to rappel down the wall. So, you ever watch an action movie? You go over that damn wall. Yeah, you go back first. You go back first. Maybe not like that, but you go back first and you're going back. Yeah, for sure. So I'm 14, I think, or 13, somewhere going into like my 8th grade year or something. And I rappelled. Very first thing I ever did was rappel off the cliff with my dad. He held me down the wall. I get to the bottom.
Now, hold up. Go ahead. You were scared.
Terrified. Absolutely terrified.
You shit yourself?
No, but I definitely was. So you'll learn this if you keep climbing. There's a saying that's called, you can never trust your mentor too much, or it's not necessarily it goes like that, but there's a very big stereotype that your mentors as climbers, you put faith in, just like any mentor, right? If I have a teacher I really trust, I might ask them life questions, advice, and I might really rely on that advice. I might believe that they can't really do wrong in certain instances. Yeah. But now let's take that context out of the classroom and let's put you on a wall. In real life. And if they don't tie that knot right, if they don't put the piece of protection in the wall right, you're both dead or worse, or something bad, Yeah. So it becomes a game of, although I'm your teammate, I'm your partner, maybe as a climbing partner, if you know more than me, it doesn't mean I shouldn't question everything you do. I shouldn't try to understand everything you do. I shouldn't always have my own opinion, because trust and complacency are death for climbing. Really dangerous. Wow. And so I can't remember exactly how I got here, but climbing a gravity vault, right, in that environment where it's totally controlled, you don't have to worry about any of those things. You can go to somebody like Dylan, who is a very knowledgeable person now, but you don't even have to really have any knowledge. You could have took a class on how to hold the rope at the gym. It takes an hour, and you could be in there every day without any assistance. Yeah, it's like usually through the gyms that you get it, right? Or through like whatever organization if you're going in an indoor location. But I was doing all those skills on a real wall outside in a real world practical environment, learning from my dad who knows how to do all this stuff, but I'm learning as we go. I'm trusting everything he's doing. And so in these first few times in these environments, yes, I'm scared, but I'm also a kid. My dad is very smart. He's done this before. I've been in scary situations with him before. Not like this scary, I guess, but I had full faith in him that I'd be okay. Yeah. I knew that I was going to be fine.
Right.
But was that not intimidating? Yeah, it absolutely was intimidating.
I mean, I feel like if with knowing you have that support, especially from your father, I know there's no way you could really second guess the trust.
I'm also, I guess, a little bit.
Like if it was
I
someone
fully
else?
agree with you. You know, I think I'm doubting myself a little bit. I'm thinking more about who I was as a teenage kid.
Yeah.
Every teenage boy, I guess, is like invincible. They think, right?
Of course. Yeah, nothing can happen.
I think I've held on to this a little bit. I think I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie, I guess. If you chase rock climbing in the thrill of death, you probably have a little bit of an adrenaline bug. I used to play competitive paintball, and I still rock climb, obviously, and I love competitive sport and high pressure, and I thrive in that environment, I feel. So I think part of it is that I seek out stressful moments, even though it might be intimidating.
Yeah.
I think I get that from my dad. But yeah, with somebody that not only do I do that with all the time, or I'm often uncomfortable experiencing new things, yeah, definitely it contributed. But I think I'm also a little bit more prone to being like, fuck it, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you have, I've learned that with climbing though. It's like you have to just trust yourself and know, like, just do it.
For sure.
Just do it. Because
absolutely.
Once you set yourself back with the thought of like, I can't do it, any hint of fear or just hint of you won't be able to get over that hump, I guess it still is fear.
Absolutely. It's self-doubt. It's an individual sport. You know, I swam my whole life, and I when I was coaching climbing, which I haven't gotten to yet, but when I coached the youth climbing team for the gravity vault for about 2.5 years, I had a lot of kids that had to deal with failure and self-doubt and competing against odds that they couldn't beat, whatever it might be. And, you know, it's an individual sport.
Yeah.
You stack yourself against yourself, and it's your own interpretation of your success and your failure and what your goals are. That's what dictates everything. So for me, it was not about, you know, do I have a strong climber? Can this kid qualify for something? What I always would try to focus on was the same things that I learned from my dad. Yeah. Because I swam and I did an individual sport and I battled with self-doubt. I might not have rock climbed competitively, but it's a very similar vibe. You know, you're racing against everyone in the pool, but nobody cares what their times are. You care about your time.
Individual time.
And if you beat your time, then you had a good day, you know?
Hold on. You mentioned swimming.
Sure.
What did you swim?
So I did distance free. So again,
okay.
I love torturing myself. I love a little bit of pain.
Were you swimming like 500s?
Yeah, I did the 500. Okay. I did the 200. I did varsity swim when I was in 8th grade. And then from 9th, 10th, and 11th, I did varsity. In my 12th grade year, I was the assistant captain or co-captain. I could have done college, but I had no interest because it's just like you're basically a slave to being in the pool.
A slave?
Yeah, like you got to be 6 hours in the water. I mean, it's like a job.
How you think Phelps did it?
He was more than that, dude.
Yeah,
I don't want to use worse language, but like, dude was. I mean, if you read some of his workout routines, I mean, he was an athlete. Oh my god, yeah.
It's funny that you had to want it because he was one of my.
But that's that's a personal. You want to be that.
That's
you need to do that. You need to want that. Nobody else is going to make you that.
That's true.
Don't matter. How talented you are.
You have to really go for it. You have to put in the time. You have to put in that effort.
And that's why I think I related to climbing so much. Coming from I pitched for baseball. It was a team sport. You know, those were the two sports I did. I swam, I played baseball, and then whenever I had free time, I'd rock climb for fun. And so as I became older and climbing became a bigger part of my life, as I got older, I would do bigger and harder mountains with my dad. I got able to travel to the UK. I've definitely told you a long story about being in the UK, climbing there. I've been to the Canadian Rockies twice. I've done a couple mountains in Canadian Rockies, some above 10,000 feet.
10,000 feet. I don't see. He's breezing through these feet.
I'm trying to get through my career so I could
20 feet.
We could talk about
30
some stories.
feet. Like how? Like 10,000 feet, bro.
Yeah.
10,000 feet.
We're starting at about what, like 5,000 elevation, maybe. So we're only doing about 5,000 elevation.
5,000 elevation is where Denver is at already.
Sure, yeah, but you're starting at Denver. You're starting at that height. Yeah, absolutely.
At the mile high.
And so yeah, that wasn't my first leap, and so I built up to those bigger mountains in my college years. We had done Canada the second time. By the time I was 24, 25, I had moved on to starting to coach climbing in a more formal way in the gym, where my job was every day 9 to 5. And I really enjoyed that. I go to school for education. I hope to one day teach, and I really got a kick out of that when I was coaching. I love being able to help people achieve their goal. I love being able to assist people in any way I can.
So, and I love that, because I feel like in life, you should always be able to elevate people.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Even if you feel like you can't elevate yourself, try to be that person that can help lift others up.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? There will be someone, and hopefully there will always be someone for you. But if you can just shed that light and just be that support, you don't know how many lives you can change. And it's like, to have that feeling that I helped you in a way where you felt more of yourself. You felt elevated. You felt more superior because you got that extra push. Is a feeling that I love.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And I think for me, I've had a lot of big moments in my life that relate to climbing, personal achievement. And that's, again, ties into what I was telling you about why I enjoyed coaching and trying to give those moments back to people. It's not about the sport achievement. It was about, helping a child realize a goal or overcome an obstacle. That stuff is so powerful. And those are the things that I hold on to from when I was an athlete. I haven't been an athlete in 5-6 years, but
you think you can swim 50 right now?
I could do 50, but I wouldn't be fast, maybe. But I could probably break 30 seconds easy. But I don't think I could do I was a 23.5 50 free. 23.5. That's my time. I was a pretty good sprinter. I wasn't.
But you swam a lot.
I wasn't like a sprinter. I was much better at freestyle because my ability to not give up is unreal. I will get out of the pool. I'll throw up. I will collapse, but I won't. I won't stop trying until I'm done.
Okay.
So I always would be.
My dog was a shark in the tank.
Hell yeah! So those long distance, those were sprints.
Yeah.
I would be able to pace myself at a sprint though. I would give it everything
because you're pushing,
and not a lot of people can do that. So and I thrived off the adrenaline. So a lot of times I would be the anchor of relays, and I would consistently in moments of pressure would be able to come up and beat my time or beat the other relay team, I feel so that. I've always, and that's why I pitched, in the pressure moments, I'm under control. I'm going to outthink you. I'm going to beat you. I'm smarter than you. I'm going to beat this adversity, right? Whatever it might be. And so all of my personal things that I seem to enjoy, it's about a challenge where I overcome it, and it's individual in a way. It's funny.
I like that, bro. You got that Michael Jordan in you. You have that Mamba mentality where you want to be the best at whatever you're doing.
To a degree. Like, I've never been interested in being the best rock climber or climbing the tallest mountain.
That's
what I'm much more impacted by is achieving something that I didn't believe I could have done maybe before I had set out to achieve that goal. Like, I think the easiest example I can think of, it relates to climbing, would be my second attempt climbing Edith Cavell, which is one of the 11,000 footers in the Canadian Rockies. I haven't even been to the peak either time. I've tried to climb it twice. The first time I tried to climb it when I was in my high school years with my dad. I think I was 16.
Yeah.
No, 17. We almost died a couple times on that attempt, and not like absolute near death, but we came close a couple times.
How?
It's a longer story, so we can come back to it.
All right.
I got to finish my thought here before I lose it. But so, the first time would talk about, let's go back to Edith Cavell. I'd love to try to do this again. I'd love to take another crack at this mountain. And I had developed an illness, like an allergy in my later life that really challenged my weight and maintaining my weight. I was really underweight for over a year, very sick, kind of almost bedridden in a way, really unhealthy, right? And when I finally had realized what the issue was causing it and corrected my diet and started to maintain a normal weight, I had set in my mind that while I was sick, I might never get a chance to do something like Edith Cavell again, even try. So it was really powerful to then go back a year later after being sick and feeling much better with my dad and taking another try at it. And we make it to the fall summit. But one of the So the fall summit, I'm using terms I should define. A fall summit on a mountain. Say you're climbing a mountain, you know, you're looking at the horizon line and you see the horizon, you can see there's another hill at the top of that hill, but you can't see past that hill. There's more hills above it. It's just your horizon that you could see from your perspective and your angle, because you're going up a steep cliff. You can only see so far above that hill, right?
Is it called the summit or?
The summit is the top, the very top of the mounton.
I'm wearing
there you go. Very fitting shirt you got on. But so essentially there's a lot of issues with all kinds of mountains have this. Very common in the Himalayas. It's called false summits. You basically are convinced because of the angle you're coming up at and what you can see behind it that this is the top. We're about to get over the crest. That's it. But it's just a deception, right? As soon as you get over that, you see there's another slight slope or another little hill you got to climb. Gone. Yeah, exactly. And so we knew for a fact, based upon where we were and the description of the next approach of what we had to do, that we had done the scramble and the short rock climb we needed to do to get to the false summit, the second to last step, where you would have to have put on special ice shoes to do an ice field climb. So you're basically doing an easy ice climb, and I can explain ice climbing and what I mean by easy ice climbing. You're really not using any kind of technical ability. You just have ice gear, and you're kind of walking up an ice field slope.
Now, when did you learn how to do the ice part? Because if you're doing all this climbing,
16.
But then how do you know? So when you're training with your dad, you're going on different terrain and different
I think it really depends on, for me, in my case with my dad, the goal, that's what defined what we learned how to do, or what he taught me how to do at least. Because my dad, you got to also remember, I forget. Yeah. He already knew how to do all this stuff before I was even born. Yeah. And he's just reflexing these muscles again, you know? I wish I could have a podcast with my dad here with you. Like, the pictures and the videos I have of the stuff, not videos maybe because he's older, but the pictures and the stories and the people he's taken that I've met, I mean, unreal. The stuff he's done Rainier. He's done, Rainier is a massive mountain in Washington State. So another 12,000 footer. He had trained to do McKinley, which is the tallest mountain in the continental United States.
It's crazy.
He never was able to go though because he had my sister, and so he was in deep. He was one of you could even argue if you do Denali, which is in Alaska, which he had all the gear, he had booked the plans, he was ready to go. That was like his I'm about to be a dad, this is my last trip kind of thing, and he ended up not being able to go. But I mean, to be able to do something like Denali, it's just like going to Mount Everest. There is no difference. It's just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, because it's not as traveled by tourism. Yeah, it's that seriousness of a mountain level. It's just somebody that doesn't understand mountaineering. Yeah. So my dad is far more experienced, much more, let's say, been around the block, even though he was maybe out of practice at that point. And so, whenever we're doing these things, that's also why I'm so trusting. It's in the back of my mind, even if I know that I don't know how to do it, my dad knows how to do it, and he'll explain it to me, and I can figure it out, and I'll learn, and I've learned before, and it doesn't matter that I'm on a wall or whatnot. And usually we're not learning in the actual moment, but if I'm learning something new, you know, like when we were in Scotland, the story I've referenced before, I did a lot of things for the first time on that day, right? But sometimes you're forced into it. You don't got a choice, right?
It's an act
you plan for as much as you can. So in the instance of the ice field and all this, right? When we had initially gone to Edith Cavell the first time when I was in high school, and we didn't do that first attempt, we had planned on going up one side, the left side of the mountain, right? That left ridge has a easy rock climb and one ice field that you have to climb at the top, kind of just like the one I was just telling you about. The issue there was we never made it to the ice field, but we planned on being there. So we went a whole weekend to the Catskills before we went that summer, and we ice climbed. We did top rope ice climbing. So what you did at the gym where a rope is strung above your head already, we climbed up there beforehand, set up the rope and threw it down, and you climb back down, right? And then you're on a top rope where you have the most control, most safety, and then you can practice whatever. You could place ice screws. That's the protection you put into the ice that you can clip your rope into if you're climbing up without, you know, a rope already above your head. So
you're telling me you have to trust the ice when you're putting in these screws?
Sure, yeah.
Because it can pop out.
It's that for sure, but you got to also bear in mind that you're doing it on a glacier typically, or a glacier field. You know, a field that's 12 to 20,000 feet above sea level. There's no trees, there's no vegetation. The wind is constantly 50 miles an hour. There is no life. You know, like it's rocks and the wind and the cold moisture, and so that's why it's just built up and built up. And other than global warming, I mean, that some of those ice sheets we're talking about that I'm thinking of in my head they're like football fields thick, some of them. I mean, where you screw your 12-inch ice screw in, you're not going anywhere. It's safer than a bolt in the wall at a building. You know, you're really secure. Absolutely. I'm no physicist. I'm not going to claim to be an expert. You can look it up on YouTube. You can find lots of really good videos. You could hold cars with some of the equipment we use to hold ourselves up off of the same kind of protection, same scenarios. And we're definitely not as heavy as a car. So it's all about context. You know, I've definitely risked my life on equipment that is not as safe or as sturdy. Mm-hmm. But again, sometimes you're forced into it and sometimes you plan for it. So.
God damn. The climbing on the ice though I see it all the time.
I never finished, but so we get to that summit.
Yes, the summit. Yes.
We get to that fall summit, and what's called the turnaround time. When you have these big mountains where you're above the tree line, and I'll explain what above the tree line means. When you're above 4,000 feet, trees don't have enough oxygen to grow, so they become more stunted. When you're about 4,500 feet off the sea level, there are no more trees. It's just moss, really. Air is much thinner, but you don't feel the difference as a person. When you get to about 7,000 feet and you start to physically exert yourself, you definitely start to feel a little bit of a difference. When you're at 8,000 to 9,000 feet, you're losing it about a quarter.
This is 8,000 to 9,000 feet off the ground.
Off sea level. We're just talking about elevation. So like when you're in Colorado and you're at 9,000 feet, same thing, right? The air is just thinner. It's less dense, right? And therefore, there's less oxygen in the air that you're inhaling, and it's harder for your body to pump the oxygen in your blood to the muscles you're using. Mm-hmm. So let's say you're at 10,000 feet. There's probably about a third to a quarter of the brain capacity that you normally have is out the window because you don't have the same level of oxygen. So making decisions is harder. Just walking is tougher. Like it's not like you are in pain or you feel worse, but simple steps, it's like you're jogging instead of walking. And when you're jogging, it's like you're sprinting. You know, every step is harder and you feel more gassed afterwards.
I believe that because when we lived in Denver, with it being at 5,000, when I moved there and I was trying to play basketball and all that stuff, bro, I was out of breath.
Absolutely. Your body's got to climatize, adjust.
You know, exactly. So, the first day we moved bags upstairs.
Yeah, you get used to it.
Out of breath, bro. I was like...
I feel that you have to do these things called climatization climbs. And, you know, if you're in the Himalayas, maybe you're going from base camp 1 back down and to base camp 2 to base camp 1 and then back down until you have the time where you have enough altitude adjustment that you can have enough energy to push to the peak and come back down safely. When you're doing smaller mountains, like in the Canadian Rockies or the Canadian Rockies are smaller than the Rockies, more south. There's a little bit more erosion there. So in the Canadian Rockies, they're about 1,000 to 2,000 feet smaller, but you're still 4,000 or 5,000 feet above, you know, tree line. You got glaciers on the top of these mountains, ice fields, snow fields. So none of these are easy by any feat, even the 8,000, 9,000 ones. And so when we get to these situations where you're climbing these huge mountains, you have a really strict plan. Obviously, I've been saying we planned this, we planned on doing that. We not only planned on doing it, but we planned on being there at this time with this much stuff at this time. And if we don't, we're turning around. Yeah. Doesn't matter how we feel. Doesn't matter what the weather's like, et cetera, et cetera. That's a turnaround time. Because at the end of the day, you might feel like, especially in my situation, it's my second time going back. I wanted it so badly. I had all these other motivations. I'm never going to be back here in theory. It costs thousands for me to be there. You want to get to the summit. I have one try at it. Yeah. If it rains, I can't go. No more. I can't do it. You know, if I run out of energy, I sprain my ankle, I don't bring enough the right stuff, and I have to turn around. It's done. My trip's a waste. So you can't fuck up. You got to bring the right stuff, and you got to be prepared, and you got to know how to do it. But even if all of it goes well and you're doing good, if you just don't make it to the spot you need to be on time, you got to turn around, because even if you can make it up later, you don't know. The mountains are unforgiving. Maybe the weather changes. Yeah. Maybe you roll your ankle, and now it's dark out,
and it's going to be a harder situation.
Everything becomes tougher, and now you're making these decisions and these choices with a quarter less brain capacity, and you're exhausted, and you haven't had any sleep in 24 hours, and then you've climbed a whole mountain. You can't do those kinds of things. That's how people die, right? So we had made it to the fall summit, and we were about an hour behind our turnaround time. On this fall summit, you could see the summit. We knew, based upon the description of the ice field, that's the ice field, that's the summit. We could see it. We were 200 meters away. But I had never been more satisfied in my entire life turning around, not getting to that summit. Yeah. Because I had never even made it that far on that mountain on the first attempt. I had done something and gotten that far, achieved something after being so sick and unhealthy that I thought I'd never be able to do. It's a feeling that I wish I could give to everybody. Seriously, it's super empowering. And that's, I think, a big motivator for me to eventually coach climbing, you know, because it's a competition in a plastic gym environment, none of that stuff I just described could happen in it. But to me, there's a microcosm of that personal achievement, and it's a correlative. It's the same kind of, you're doing the same motions at a harder capacity, smaller walls, whatnot. But I knew how to experience that personal challenge and that struggle. I had done that individual sport before. I had done that before. So for me, it was a natural progression, and it was in a thing I had been doing more and more and more and becoming more experienced in.
For sure. Hey, Bubby.
Hey, mister. All right.
So, yeah.
Kind of just picking up where in the correlation to, all the personal achievement, obviously everything I've been talking about, a lot about it about me and my dad and my experiences and how that has shaped my view of climbing or whatnot. But I think the other thing that I really latch onto with climbing, and that I think you can relate to as somebody that's not as experienced with climbing, something that's really important to me about the sport, about the community, or what I've learned as a human, what I value morally. Climbing is a very great leveler. No body type is perfect other than being fat. It's probably the only one you can't be. But if you were skinny and small, if you're tall and lanky, if you're broad-shouldered but with weak legs, it doesn't matter. That's all an advantage. It's all about perspective. If you are too big to do the cave climb, you're too tall to do the long reach, well, the other person that's not can't do it that way either. And they might know a different way. Yeah. And you can learn from them. Or you could take a tiny part of, maybe you are too big for that, but you could use that technique on a different climb that they can't do. And you could do it at a degree that makes you you. And it's empowering in a way. And it's individual and unique. No one is right or wrong. And everybody grows and achieves at a different level and pace.
It's funny you said that, because I had one.
And you do it together. I think that's my main point, really, is that it's the people you do it with. You meet unique people. You meet people that are not motivated by money, other than maybe just being strong. They want to be strong, right? But it's all these people with no money that are in the woods with no clothes on and no deodorant. They have no social values other than each other.
And they want no deodorant. That's true.
Everything about climbers is experience joy, live in the moment. All of these kinds of things, these tropes about outdoorsy, like climbing is, they live it. They are about it.
Do you think you're outdoorsy now?
I would say I'm less outdoorsy than I used to be, but that's because I live on Long Island.
Yeah.
But I would say I've always described myself as outdoorsy. Like, for example, last week on my day off, I only had 5 hours off. Like, I had a doctor's appointment, I had a dentist appointment, but I had to leave the island. So I drove 45 minutes to Bear Mountain, and I hiked by myself for like 2 hours. Never felt better. I barely did anything. I just walked around in the woods, but I never feel more alive. Bear Mountain is in between here and Albany. So if I had to describe it to you in like a context on a map, it is Poughkeepsie, New York, if you know where that is. That's where I grew up. It's kind of like really close to there. It's on the other side of the river. It's like directly across the river from there. So it's on the Hudson River. It is about an hour north of New York City. You could see the New York City Milton? Skyline. What's that?
Is it Milton, like on the other side?
I don't know Milton. What about, like, do you know Tarrytown? Yeah, Middletown is on the same side, I think. It's on that same side of the New Jersey side. Yeah, it's on that side. It's basically the entire green space in between New Jersey and New York. It's the size of Connecticut, the park. But Bear Mountain is a specific mountain. There's a hotel on it. It's a really historical place. There's a fort, Revolutionary War fort, where they fought a battle there. I love history, and I've been to that fort many times. I've written papers about it. And so for me, like, just going out in the woods, being in a place where I can connect to, stuff like that, by myself, huge. I'm outdoorsy. I love stuff like that. But again, back what I was saying, I think it's not just outdoors. It's the people. It's the people you meet climbing and the challenges you achieve together, doing things and having conversations you never would have had. I've met people like a Polish immigrant straight across from the Cold War, crossed the Berlin Wall illegally. He got put on a boat, got smuggled into the United States. I've climbed mountains with that guy, and he's given me life lessons, experiences, perspectives I would never have, but not even that, but just life, like what do you value? What do you think is important? Why should you care about these things? Just basic things like that, getting perspective from somebody that did not have it like you. I'm a white guy. I'm very lucky. I grew up in a pretty privileged situation, but to meet people that aren't like that don't face the same adversity as you, makes you really well-rounded and really powerful. Oh yeah. But I think climbing is that variable, or the thing that allowed me to be relatable to those people, because I put my hand up. My dad's an engineer. He is a white man. I am privileged to do these things that are expensive for fun. But I met lots of people that had no money that did this, that traveled the world doing it out of passion. You meet amazing people that do the sport because they love it. And that's what you hold on to.
Do you think that draws you more to the sport and the community?
Yeah,
where you feel
absolutely.
like
You meet people like Dylan that took you climbing, dragged you to that gym, made you climb that wall, made you achieve something, made you feel amazing about yourself. Yeah. Why wouldn't you want to be around people like that?
Shout out to my homie, because he had me on that wall the other day. When I went up there, when I went back on the lower wall, all the fear that I've had on the lower wall went out the door.
Oh yeah.
Now I'm climbing up some of these things where I'm like, before it was a height thing for me. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
So going up there first and then coming back and doing that, it felt like, yo, this is easy. I'm not as high up. Oh, I can get there. But before I was like even knowing damn well
safer on the wall, the rope.
The path is right there. Yeah. But it is safer on the rope.
Absolutely. Yeah. As a manager of those climbing gyms, I saw, every dozen ankle injuries, there's maybe one scrape with the knee on the wall from a rope. Yeah. We're talking about not only number of injuries, but like seriousness of the injury. Yeah. Like if you're talking about how serious was the injury on a rope compared to a bouldering pad, like a 16-foot wall for people that don't know, that has a pad underneath it, right? Maybe you're climbing without a rope on these boulders. I do this outside quite often, which is much more dangerous, but inherently, people think the smaller walls are safer, right? They take their kids there. They want to do it. But little Timmy doesn't know how to coordinate his fall. He doesn't know how to land on one leg. And Timmy can get his ankle rolled really easy. Or even a grown man, you throw your full body weight for a jump, trying to catch him with one hand, and you don't. That's going to go wrong. Yep. But if you're on a rope, what's going to happen? It's going to snap. It's going to catch you. Not the rope's not going to snap, but the rope is going to get snap taut. You're going to get caught by the rope. And then maybe your momentum carries you into the wall. Maybe you bang your arm. Maybe you scrape your leg. But you're not dead. You're not breaking your leg. You're not falling anywhere, right? But to go right into that experience and expect it to be safe and comfortable and understanding is not easy, right? It's an intimidating thing. And even people that are really experienced climbers, they get a little bit of that was scary, or that's exposed, that's high up. People absolutely feel that, but it's also about exposure to it, frequency of it. The more you're at 60 feet and you look straight down, and the only thing holding you up is the thing attached to the wall, and you see that and your brain tells you that's not safe, I should be in danger, you might feel like a little bit of panic, right? But after 1,000 times of doing that, and you tell yourself 1,000 times, nothing's ever happened, I'm fine, you stop having those thoughts, and you think more practically. You think, well, I have my figure eight, I'm tied in safely, and I'm attached to the wall, and why would I have anything happen to me? Yeah. And now there's no more fear. It's not rational to think that way. So it's about understanding it and building a trust for it. But you can't understand it or you can't build trust for it if you don't understand.
Exactly. Now, I'll tell you, the first time was that video I recorded, or Dylan recorded for me. It was my first time, and I went up there, and then halfway, I'm like, and I start to look down. Number one, don't ever look down.
No, you got to. It's important. You should look down.
Why?
Your feet. It's half your body. Your legs are stronger than your arms. You want to pull yourself up the wall, you want to climb.
Yeah, but you have to step up, boys. When you look,
and how do you use your feet? How do you know where that tiny little foot chip is that you're going to use your pinky toe and push off with your full body weight with extreme coordination?
But bro, so you're telling me when you have to, all right, take that step up, you're telling me you're looking down where at some point you're only going to see the top of trees.
Sure, yeah. But you need to focus on what's going on with your pinky toe, not what's underneath your pinky toe. That's what I would tell my kids that I'm working with. Be like, if you don't look at your feet, how are you going to use that foothold that's crucial to doing the movement that was required of you? Yeah. When you think about rock climbing, it's very difficult to visualize, but it's a puzzle. On a real wall, there aren't any painted pictures. There's no plastic holds that you could say, that one looks like I can grab on the right side and that looks pretty good. You can't do that. You got to feel your way through it. You got to hold on tight, and it's much more tactile, and it's a lot more slower and tedious. In a climbing gym environment, in the sport environment where you see on the Olympics or on TV, you have these giant plastic holds. It's much more like gymnastics. It's much more of a high adrenaline paced sport, kind of like an American Ninja Warrior. Yeah. It's about your ability to be coordinated and incredibly dynamic and powerful. So if you don't have your ability maybe the foot chip on the wall is the size of a penny that has texture. And if you don't get your foot on that penny, you ain't going to get the pressure you need to push up and jump. It's as simple as that. And if you can't execute the movement, then you can't do the required climb that they're testing you on. So some certain things, it's what they would call maybe like body Morpheus, like certain things you're more prone to do it if you have a certain body type. Mm-hmm. But in these climbing gym environments, they can create climbs that are challenging, and you might think that jumping through the air is impossible to be fair, to catch onto something 10 feet away. But they might put a foot chip that allows the short climber to do it if they just push off the wall instead of going for the full jump. And it's this puzzle solving and the difference about everybody that makes it such a cool sport and makes it such a fun challenge in the gym by yourself with your friends. Because you don't need to do it as a sport. You could go to the gym with your friends and you could say, I did that V4, bro. How do you do it? And it's a challenge. It's a chess match. Did you do it the same way I did?
Yeah.
And did you fall? Did you slip there? You know, and these little micro details, if you don't pay attention to where your foot is, that's the difference. You fall. And now if you're talking about, you know, elite competition, what's the difference between somebody that's great at baseball in the major leagues and somebody in the minor leagues? They're both professional athletes. They both can sit your ass down with 3 pitches if they're a pitcher.
Yeah.
But the one guy that's hitting against them in the majors, he can succeed 3 times, where everybody else in the minors can only succeed twice. Right? That's the only difference. We're measuring things like that in the same level of rock climbing. And they have grades and scales to measure success, but it's much more subjective because, again, body type matters and strength matters and scenery matters, exposure matters. In a gym, everything's perfect. There's always pad underneath you. There's no danger of falling off of a cliff or something. So you could do these really extreme, crazy, fanatical movements that I would never have done on a rock wall.
Leaning into this, do you feel like climbing outdoors is a true climber versus climbing inside of a...
You're going to maybe talk about stereotypes?
I just want to ask you on your take on that. I feel like...
I think that as somebody that has started outside so yourself is a great example. Almost everybody nowadays did not get into the sport like I did. They did not have a dad that had enough money to spend thousands of dollars on gear and learn in their free time. Not a lot of people have that time, energy, or effort. And so that's why it was such a niche thing when my dad did it. And there weren't a lot of companies or people or places that you could do it. As of now, it's quadrupled, expanded immensely. A lot of that has to do with climbing in a gym. And I used to say this a lot to my customers I would help, or to like somebody like Dylan, who I would teach how to lead climb, which is the climbing with the rope where you fall a lot more. That kind of stuff is, I'm giving what my dad taught me how to do as a kid outside, that made me feel empowered, that brought me to Canada, that brought me to the UK, that had me meet these amazing people. I'm giving you that same skill. Now it's up to you. You go do whatever you want with it. Go climb any mountain. Go anywhere you want. Right. Meet with anybody that knows how to do this. Be their friend. Find a climbing partner. Experience the world. I gave you that tool, just like my dad did, and that was so empowering for me. And that's climbing. It's not just the sport. It's not just doing it in that one moment. You know, maybe I'm climbing in the gym with my friends as a weekly workout after work, or maybe I'm gonna go on a mountain like Edith Cavell and I'm gonna climb to the peak because I want to achieve something that I have never done before or somebody else hasn't done before. It's all different. Your level is different depending on who you are. But the majority of people are going to have experienced climbing for the first time, having gone into a climbing gym at a plastic, 40-foot wall, hire your staff belay, take them to the kid's birthday party. That's the most common way people will find rock climbing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that in the sense that it's a great place for it. I use the climbing gym as a training tool. I go there to train for certain things. Maybe I want to practice with my partner who doesn't know how to do a certain skill, and it's much safer there. It's a much easier learning environment. You don't have to know somebody like my father. You could go and hire somebody like me that wanted to get paid to just help you learn, right? And so it's a much more accessible environment. So I think it's essential, especially for communities that are underprivileged, that don't have the same kind of access to a climbing gym that has a climbing or a high school to climbing club or a college that supports a climbing team. However people access the sport, it's typically cost involved, and any kind of barrier you can help them make that cost lower or get it to communities that might never be able to go to a mountain because they don't have the means or the finances or the interest. Maybe they do, but they just don't think I could go to a mountain 4 hours away and climb it.
That's true.
So it's about exposing people to the sport, telling them you can do it. This is how you do it. This is how you can afford it. And then allowing them to travel the world and do stuff that you could never dream of doing.
Now you've been all around you've been not all around the world, but you've been around the world.
I've been out of the country. Let's put it that way.
How many times have you been out of the country for climbing?
For climbing specifically, 4 times.
Okay.
And I've traveled to different places inside of the country probably a dozen times to climb. That's not just like, if we're talking about just going to climb a rock climb, multi-pitch climbing, or multiple lengths of my rope, or bouldering outside, not in a gym, I can't count. Hundreds of times. But where I'm like planning an expedition, a trip, a multi-day plan, probably about 16 to 20 times throughout my life that I've done something like that. Major mountains, half a dozen. That's it. But to me, sometimes it's not about the height, like in Scotland, for instance, those mountains, they're called the Black Cullens. They're in an incredibly unique location, a place I'll never go back to unless I go there to climb them again. People there that you'll never meet again. They've lived there their whole lives for generations, and you experience things and you see places and people you just never would have come across. And that experience, those trips, those almost more impactful than the Edith Cavell maybe.
So you're saying like,
and you face similar challenges, but maybe I'm not worried about turning around from altitude sickness or facing that kind of death or that kind of fear, but maybe I'm facing elemental, wind and rain and hail and the lack of supplies or not planning well enough or being exposed and not being able to escape. And, you're still real threat and danger. You're still doing dangerous rock climbs and rappels, but you're maybe not at 12,000 feet. I've done a lot of those. I've done a lot of 4 to 6,000 maybe foot mountains. Done a lot of Adirondack peaks. Done a lot of backpacking in the Adirondacks and in the Northeast and the Smoky Mountains. So I've been around the Northeast, definitely.
Hey, so they know you.
Yeah.
So when they see you coming, there goes that man.
Definitely in the gunks. I've been spotted in the gunks, like the Shaw. We call the Shaw gunks where I grew up rock climbing. We call that the gunks. And because I've been in the climbing community, it's not a huge community. Like I've said, I've been trying to talk it up, but this kind of tells you it's not that big. When I go to the gunks, I could be outside in the woods for maybe 8 hours and I'll see maybe like 50 to 100 people walking up and down the trails to different climbs and stuff. I know maybe a quarter of them.
They're like,
yeah. Or they recognize me and they're like, I know you. You were the manager or you coached that team or, it's not a huge community, especially in New York in that area, but it's always getting bigger. It's always getting bigger.
Damn. Now, Ian, I'm going to have you do one story.
Okay.
All right. I want you to dig in that bag.
Okay.
And you're going to tell one of these stories that you went into another country. Something that you face adversity.
We're going to talk about my Scotland trip, right? The one I just referenced.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like that would be
I think it's my best story personally out of all, so I gotta, everybody listening to this far, if they hear the story and they're impressed by it, I don't got anything better. Okay. This is my best. But this definitely is like, I feel like it's a perfect story because it encapsulates what I've shared about my dad and his knowledge and my relationship with him. It really captures what I love about rock climbing, the people I might meet or my experiences I might have, good or bad, and how they have shaped me and how I view my life or go through life. And even now, I still feel like this story just encapsulates me quite a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm 16. My dad, he had worked at a job as an engineer where he would travel a lot and they would pay for his flights to travel. So he would keep the flight miles. That's how we were able to afford to travel at the time, to go out of the country at least.
Smart.
And so he had built enough points that we were able to go to somewhere really far away, like outside of the United States / Canada. And so he was like, what if we go to somewhere like, Scotland, and we could do other things than just climb. We could do really touristy. We're both into big history nerds. So he wants to do all the history sites, the castles and things. And we can go do this amazing climbing experience. And so we planned a 10-day trip. Only about 4 days of it we planned on really being outdoors and climbing and stuff, right? This, unlike in Canada where you have to climatize and do multiple climbs before you go, this is not the case in a small mountain in the Black Cullens in Isle of Skye. So that's where we are. It's about 4 hours north of Edinburgh, northwest. And that is going to be on the coast of the North Atlantic Ocean. So really cold water, beautiful, kind of scenic, kind of, I think, Nordic landscape, grassy field, not a lot of trees.
Oh, wow.
Really nice rolling hills, lots of sheep, 1-lane roads everywhere at both directions, 1 lane.
Long lane roads?
Oh, yeah.
Lights,
not
no
long.
lights.
No. Windy, around bends and turns and up and over little hills. And there's no other people there. I mean, that's maybe an exaggeration. We're talking about density population. We're talking one guy for every 5 miles or so, right? We're not a lot of people. But you have these 1-lane roads that connect everything, and they go both directions, traffic. And we have this little Fiat 500 rental car. We're driving on the wrong side of the road as it is already. We're not used to that. And in Scotland, you have these big weather events. It's on an island. We're on an island, off an island. It's got all kinds of crazy rainstorms all the time. It's the summertime. You got to go in the summertime to climb there. You got to have it when it's dry, or else you can't rock climb. It's just a fact about climbing. When it's wet, you can't do it outside. Just rock doesn't work that way. So you got to do it when it's dry. And so Scotland and rock climbing, they just don't go well together usually. Now you add the fact in that we're on the northern coast of this Atlantic island in the North Atlantic, and we're facing awful kind of climatal force. There's no kind of protection from wind or anything like that. It's very exposed. It's very rough, rugged. The ground is rough. You have these kind of like meadowy fields I would describe them as like a meadow grass field. When you walk across them, they're pot marked and you can't walk. It's not flat. You know, you can only walk on the trails. And then when you're not on the trail, you're on the side of a steep cliff or ridge, and it's quite steep, much steeper than like a mountain in, let's say, the Northeast in the United States, because just the geology there, it's much looser rock, much steeper, and it slips away as you climb up. So you're scrambling on all fours as the rock slips underneath you, and you find harder footing in certain spots, and you can rest, and a little bit scary, right? But not too bad. We're not roped up. That's the kind of environment that we would be climbing in. And so we're driving down these 1-lane roads. It's early morning in Scotland, and we had planned on maybe having to be rained out a couple times. You know, it rains randomly and then you can't go. It's 7 a.m. and we look at the weather and we see it's not supposed to rain not only that day, but it's not supposed to rain the next night or morning. So we were like, this is our chance. Perfect. All the rest of the days looked not so good, or lower chance of success. So we had traveled all this way, and it was like the first opportunity we had, and we took it.
Let's do it.
We jumped in our car. We drove down. We were about an hour and a half from the trailhead. To give people some context, we were staying at an Airbnb at the only town that's on the Isle of Skye. We were on the right side of that town. So the island is like a big circle. We were on the bottom part of that island, and the isle and the mountains where we're climbing on the other side. So we had to drive across the island to get there. The last 2 miles or so, you're going down these tiny dirt roads that are very pot marked, tons of potholes and stuff. We're going really fast because we're in a rush. We want to get there. We want to start climbing. We want to get up to the mountain ridge, right? And my dad rips over a pothole about 50, 45 miles an hour on this dirt road in the middle of nowhere in this tiny little Fiat. Immediately didn't feel good. I just real hard bump. I'm 16, 17. I look at my dad and I'm like, I don't know, Dad. I'm not even driving yet. And I'm like, I don't think that felt good. He makes his face like, I don't know, you might be right. But we keep on going down the road, and about a mile down the road, the light comes on for the flat tire. And so we pull over in what's called these turnaround places or pullover places. Essentially, every half a mile in Scotland, you got to maybe pass somebody, or maybe there's somebody else coming the other way, God forbid. So you pull over on these tiny little exits. They're almost like a pullout, like you were going to merge off of highway, but they're shorter than that, and they're enough for maybe 2 cars, very small.
And is it just like a little?
It's just a little. Area? It's just a little bump, like an extension to the road. It's like a bulge on the side of the road.
They have that in Denver as well, where on some of the roads they'll have like a little side road where you could just pull over to the side and slow down, like a little brake road.
Yep.
Would you say that? Yeah,
absolutely. Road. It's kind of similar to that, but they're like organized in the sense that like when they're around, like if you're at like a wicked bend, there's always going to be one there in case somebody comes around the corner, right? Right. It's scary still, but it's definitely not a lot of room to operate. Let's put it that way. Yeah. We get to the bottom of this hill. My dad rolls into this little turnaround or pull-out spot, and car stops moving. We park it. It's got this big grassy field, a bunch of cows next to us. We're about 1.5 miles from the trailhead, which is a campsite at the foot of the hills, right? And there's like a shower there and a campground, but we're 1.5 miles away. We haven't even made it to the parking lot yet. We got a flat tire, and it's the best day in like 100 years to climb in Scotland. So my dad, who's this very analytical guy, engineer, he never breaks rules. You know, he never smoked weed because he was going to join the army. And then when he didn't join the army, he was already a man of principle. So why would I do it? So he's just very analytical man. Yeah. And so in his mind, he was thinking about the cost. Oh, we're going to have to call somebody. We're 4 hours from the closest Avis or whatever, and we don't even know if we could fix this tire. If they can fix it, there's nobody that's going to be able to help us. We're going to ruin this day, right? It's waste. Hello. And so essentially, you know, my dad's having like a little panic attack. Oh my God, the vacation's ruined. Everything has gone to shambles. We haven't even started. And we're looking in the back for we have a locking lug nut on the tire. We couldn't get it off. We couldn't replace it for the spare, which we would have solved everything. Yeah. Can't find the piece to get the locking lug nut off. And my dad's come to the conclusion we're probably just going to have to call these people and scrap the day. So I look at him and I'm like, when are we ever going to be here again on a sunny day? Who is going to come bother us about this car?
You're pushing your dad.
I feel the pressure. I see my dad. I see his analytical engineer nerd. Yeah, you're being like, nah, I can't. I have to do the right thing.
We're doing this.
I'm like, when are we going to be here together like this, Dad? When are we going to have this chance? And I could see the cog turn in his head. And he's like, you know what? We haven't seen anybody since we started driving, and maybe if we leave it here for a day, nobody's going to even think, maybe they just think we just got here. And he starts to convince himself, and after about 5 minutes of talking about it together, he's convinced we're going to leave it here. We're going to do it. Let's just hike the 1.5 miles to the trailhead. We'll start there, and we just add an extra hour or so to our hike. No big deal. We'll come back to the car when we're done. Bear in mind, we're going to plan on doing a 3-day backpacking trip, but that's fine. Or 2.5 day, I guess. But yeah, we got to bring all this stuff with us, and we got to hope that in 2.5 days our cars just chill there with the flat tire. Nobody's called the tow truck. Nobody's worried about it, whatever. We hike up, we do our climb. Day one's great. We're hiking through the fields that are a little weird to walk through with the unpatchy grass, and we get to the scree fields with the slippery rocks. We climb up to the ridge. We get to the top of what's called the Knife Point Ridge on the first day. A Knife Point Ridge is essentially just like a very sharp ridge that you meet, both sides of the cliff meet, right? Not every one of them has a place to walk on, but on the Black Cullens, you have this beautiful little walkway where it's maybe like 2 feet wide, like 2 feet together wide, maybe 3 at some spots. And on the right and left of you, you have like sheer, what's called scree fields, or just fields of loose rock that are steep enough that you just tumble down to your death. So when you're on top of these Knife Point ridges, you have to tie up or rope up so that if someone were to fall, you can brace, the other person can brace and latch onto the rock or hold on and brace the other person from falling down the mountain. When we get to the top of that ridge that first day, beautiful sunny day, 65 degrees. It's the very end of summer, like last week of August, first week of September maybe. And so in the North Atlantic coast, I mean, that's the very end of like summer or spring. Not summer, I guess you'd call it fall. It's early fall. Spring. In the Northeast, that'd be summer, but not there. It is fall there for sure, especially after the second day. But so we get to the top. First day's no problem. It's a beautiful day. The top of the ridge where we were shooting for, it's a big L. So the ridge we're going to do, it's multiple peaks that are about 3,500, 3,600. On the very bend of the L, there's something called the pinnacle of the sky. You can look it up. Beautiful picture. It's a big, towering, steeple-like rock, totally isolated on the top of these mountains. It's like 2 lengths of your rope worth. It's a famous climb. You can only access it by doing this crazy backpack and climbing there. So that was our goal. We wanted to do that climb, and we wanted to finish the ridge and then hike back to our car. That was always the plan. So the first day, we hike up to the bottom right corner of the L. That's where the campsite is. The campsite, at the edge of at the very top of the Knife Point Ridge, at the edge of the ridge, there's a circular mound, basically, that you climb up to at the very top, and it's bigger than a 3-foot span. It's a big enough circular hole that you could lay down, maybe with like a little snuggle, curl your legs up a little bit, me and my dad, right? So we're in this recessed hole at the very top of a ridge, so we're protected somewhat from the wind, but we have, Gore-Tex specialty sleeping bags and winter clothing and things like that, because at nighttime, we're talking about like 45, 40 degrees. I'm not talking about the wind chill. And then you're talking about wind chill weather, things like that. It's below freezing at night. Below
freezing.
And then, so that night, probably the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. I see that night, we're on this island 4 hours away from the closest town, really, outside of the one we can't see that's on the island. So there's no light pollution. And you could see hundreds of miles into the darkness to see light at a tiny house somewhere, a tiny little farm. There was this, I have a really good picture of the campsite, which I hope I could share with you. And you can see where we slept, and you can see the view that we looked out over the North Atlantic Ocean. There's about 2 what they call locks, these little bays, kind of like what we have on Long Island, where these little bays that you could kind of have a house or whatnot. Mm-hmm. There's not a town there like there was on Long Island. There's like 1 farm maybe, or nothing, right? And so there's about 2 locks over from the mountains that we're at, maybe 20 miles. There's 1 farm, and there's 1 light on in the kitchen. Not 20 miles, maybe 5 to 10 miles. And there's 1 light on in the kitchen, and I can see it from where I'm sitting all the way on the top of my ridge. And you can see that house in this tiny corner of the picture, and you can zoom in and find it. And it's so cool because I can show you it. And it's like, I saw that. And that's like this moment that only me and my dad can experience. And on top of someone just like that, but it's probably cooler. At nighttime there, it's a very cloudy night. It's the North Atlantic coast again. You got the northern lights depending on the time of year. I didn't say the northern lights, but I got close, I guess you could say. At night, you get these aurora borealis-like colors because you see the Milky Way galaxy in much more vivid detail and color, and you can see the colors of the actual sky much better.
Because you don't have that.
You don't have any light pollution, and you're really close to the actual Arctic Circle, so you're close to where the northern lights are really active. Yeah. They're sometimes active there too, but at the time I'm there, they're not super active. But I got to see what I would describe as purple and blue and green, these beautiful colors in the sky at night, because you're not very comfortable. You wake up, you turn over, and you look up at the sky. It's a little bit cloudy, but then a cloud breaks apart maybe for 10 seconds, and you see something out of like Avengers, like the colors in the sky. I mean, it's unreal. It's just unreal. It's something that I can't describe with words, that emotion I felt. And then it would just get covered again by a cloud, and you'd have to wait a few minutes, and then you'd see this just amazing night sky, and all the stars and the colors I'm never going to forget it ever. And I spent like an hour kind of drifting in and out of sleep, just looking at the stars. And that was the night before my odyssey began. And so the first day, other than the tire, we had a great first day. We've climbed up. We haven't really had to rope up yet, and we haven't felt nervous. No falls. We've got water. We've got food. Got all the clothing we need. Everything's good. But the next day, the weather changed. It wasn't as predicted. So instead of it being like a partly cloudy morning, which we had hoped for, it was incredibly foggy and damp. The fog was so thick. I have a picture as well of my dad and I on the top before we began our hike that day. We were roped up at the time, but we had to rope up because not only was it a knife point ridge, but as soon as you would kind of escape my arm length, I just couldn't see you anymore. I mean, that's how thick the fog was.
And you're how high up?
About 4,000 feet. So you're about 3,000 feet from flat ground, and you're about, but that's not just straight down. You have different dips and spots where you're walking on flat ground. But I mean, about 500 to 600 vertical feet of sheer rock on both sides of me before you get to a ledge, let's say, because it's a mountain slope. Yeah. It's not a tall mountain, but it's a mountain, right? And there's no trees. There's no tree line there because of the weather and the conditions. So you're exposed the whole time. From the second you're on the scree, you're exposed to the elements. You're in the wind. There's no cover. There's no, getting out of it.
That's terrifying.
So it's very, it's like Mars. It's a really interesting environment. The next day, because it's starting to rain now, after we start to hike through this fog, we end up having to discuss, what are we going to do? We can't do this rock climb that we plan on doing because it's going to be wet, but we could still hike the whole ridge. Yeah. We could just do the whole L and not do the climb. So we plan on doing that. We hike for about an hour. It gets worse. It goes from about 50 degrees, 55 degrees and raining to about 40 to 45 degrees, and the rain picks up and the fog is not decreasing. And we have a GPS. It's like a GPS map that you connect, preload it. You got all these satellites so you can communicate without any cell service. We're using that to follow along what's called to find these escape routes. Escape routes aren't as intense as they might sound. They're essentially just a gully that you could go down if you had a bad situation where you're like, I got to get off the mountain. I can't be up here anymore. There are no trails really. You pick a gully or a line. That's what we call it. Like a path that you think is a good way to go, and you freaking blaze a trail, man. There is no trail. It's not so formulated.
But then are you using rope to go down on this?
Yeah, absolutely. When you go down, you do use rope, but it's only as it dictates. So what I mean by that is, on these sheer ridges to our sides, if I were to let's say I was going to butt slide, that's what we like to call that, right? You sit in your ass and you kind of pick your way down awkwardly. You're not literally sliding. It's too loose of rock and whatnot, but you can't walk straight up, right? And you're not going to turn around and climb down backwards, but you're not secure enough you could stand. That's the majority of what it is. You fall down that in the rain, good luck. That's the danger there. Yeah. It's not immediately dangerous, but your ass is grass. You fall down that if it's wet and you're not ready to fall and there's hundreds of rocks underneath you and there's no flat ground. I mean, it's just not safe. So these certain gullies are less steep than others. Some have streams, some don't. Ones with streams are less steep and easier for water to flow down. Water follows the easiest path, right? A lot of times you're following a creek or whatnot. It's a natural gully, essentially. And they're referred to as escape routes because in bad weather conditions like this, you use them to leave. Hopefully you could see a little bit better than we could. So our situation was we're following this map on a GPS, which we've never been there. We've never seen these mountains. Now we can only see right in front of our hands. And we have to try to figure out where to go and how to get down. We follow the map as best we can with the GPS to a spot where we think is a bend where the L starts to go vertical up, and we think we're going to go down south, bail off the mountain, down this escape route, this crevasse, or not crevasse, but this kind of gully, right? And it's raining at this point really hard. It's definitely dark, to the sense not dark out, but there's no sun out at all, and it's very wet. All of our clothes are totally soaked through, and we're not comfortable at this point, but we're not freezing to death or anything. We got to bear in mind, we didn't plan on being in freezing rain conditions for so long. It's not that we didn't we had all waterproof clothing and our clothing is tested to be at that temperature, but its limit was close to that. It wasn't winter gear. It wasn't high elevation gear. So I don't have things that are going to keep me warm long term if I'm wet. Yeah. And so as we start going down, we realize we get to these. You're good. Don't worry. We get to these ledges. I would refer to as a ledge. It's basically just a cliff where I no longer can butt slide or climb down by my own hands or power. I have to, and we're roped up the whole time as we're precariously kind of sliding down this little ridge. But we eventually get to a part in the gully where we can no longer scramble. We have to do what's called rappelling. That first thing I ever did when I climbed. And rappelling involves you use something called protection. Protection is a vague term. All kinds of things can be protection. Slings, rope, metal gear, screws, all kinds of equipment. And those things you place on rocks, on boulders, around rocks, in cracks. These things use physics like friction to hold on to the rock or whatnot. And then that friction holds your weight.
See, it's the level of
Just keep it as simple as that. It's a lot more sophisticated than that. I'm really trying to keep it simple just for anybody that might be listening.
The trust is there.
It's immense, but you also got to bear in mind these pieces of equipment are proven to hold thousands of pounds in underwear circumstances. You trust it. You know it's good, especially if you do it right. So that's not the issue. The issue would be is it's raining sideways, almost freezing rain. We're already soaking wet. We've been outside for over 24 hours on the mountain already in the cold rain, and we want to get down. You have a finite amount of this protection, this equipment that you use to get down or go up, vice versa. And so we have what's called slings. These slings are nylon fabric. You throw them over a rock. You throw them over a boulder that's sturdy enough. Now you can clip your clip to it, and you clip that to your harness, and now you're rappelling. You can go down. You're secure. It could be that simple. And so we have a lot of these slings. That's our main form of protection to escape and to rappel. The cool thing about slings is you put it around that boulder, that tree, that rock, and you wrap your rope on the other side through it, and you climb down that rope. You pull your rope through, and now you got your rope still, and you keep climbing down or up. The sling stays there on that rock, but it's not meant to, it will biodegrade, it doesn't stay there forever. It's a one-time kind of thing. It's a use and burn kind of thing. You can use it. People use these slings maybe a year or two after. Lots of times climbers, they have what's called, you try to leave no trace, but sometimes people can't recover gear. And sometimes in certain instances, I've definitely done this many times, I'll do it in this story. I use gear that I did not place, that I don't know how old it is, that someone else placed, whoever knows how long ago, and I have to trust that in certain situations. But it's always a last resort. Yeah. And so in my instance, we're climbing down this escape route. We get to a ledge. We finally decide we have to rappel. But the issue is that the escape routes are not meant to have ledges. You're supposed to be able to just climb down, hike down, without having to do any kind of technical climbing of any kind. But so we get to this gully and we have this realization that, oh, no, we are not actually in the right spot. And it's really terrifying because we don't know what's in front of us, what's behind us, how to get back up there, if the weather's going to improve. We're already too wet. We don't have water because there's no actual natural. There's water flowing next to us and stuff because it's raining, but there's no normal streams or stuff where we're at right now. So we just don't know what's in stake at all. Yeah. And we know we have a finite amount of stuff to get down with. So we start to descend because the other option is we climb back up in the dark or the fogginess and the rain, try to figure out where we are in a place we've never been on a knife point ridge, and just wasn't a reasonable option, especially because we'd have to climb back up a significant distance and waste more time, right? That's also really important. We're trying to escape. We don't have enough gear. We don't have enough food to stay a third day. We would really like to get off the mountain on day 2. Yeah. So we're trying to get down. We get to the ledge. We start to rappel. The first rappel is no problem. We throw some rocks over the ledge. We could hear it's not far away, probably half a rope length away. We make it. There's enough big boulders towards the top that we could throw one over one, a sling over one, quick rappel, no problem. We do this a couple more times. Every time we do it, the ledges get smaller and there are less. Go ahead.
But visually, because I want to catch this part.
Absolutely.
When you and your father are coming down this mountain, are you both like in a line together, just coming down? Sure. Is he already down to the next ledge and is it essentially belaying you down? Like basically.
No, so when you rappel, it's a solo. You can be lowered on rappel, but that requires somebody to be above you. Yeah. Right. And also having an ability to set an anchor and hold your weight. Right. If you are rappelling, you already have an anchor set and you don't need a person to support you because that anchor is supporting you. In theory, maybe you have a broken leg, then you can have someone lower you down, right? But in theory, you control your rappel. You have what's called the belay device. Yeah. It's always going to be an ATC for rappelling. ATC is like a $20 piece of metal that has one piece of metal in the middle and 2 holes on the side that you shove your rope into and you clip it. Yeah. It's that simple. It's simple friction. It's an S in the friction. That S shape creates immense mechanical advantage. And all you need to do is hold that rope with your hand and you're not going to move anywhere, right? Yeah. By rappelling, what I'm doing is I'm applying my weight back into my harness and leaning back over the edge, let's say, and I'm slowly letting that rope feed into the device. I'm not letting go. That's key. Maybe loosening my grip or letting it slide through my hand as I controllably let the rope slide into the device. But you are fully in control. And if you let go, you plummet to your death. That's how it goes. Yeah. Nobody's stopping you. You are the brake. That's my favorite thing I tell people about rappelling. You are the brake. You are the one in control here. If you want to die, let it rip.
Yeah. Let it rip.
But you got to hold that brake. And I remember I used to teach the belay class every Wednesday, Friday. I taught hundreds of people how to hold these ropes and belay, tie these knots and manage the ropes and top rope like you did with Dylan. And I would always tell these couples, same thing, like if you ever have any issues, you got full control right now. You want him to die, just let it rip. Just let him go. You can't stop you. Like, you got to really trust. And you also got to understand, all you got to do is hold on. If you remember one thing, don't let go of that rope. Don't let go. Doesn't matter who's telling you what's happening. I don't care if your arm's broken. I don't care if I'm telling you that God is telling you to let go of that rope. Don't let go of that rope. Yeah. Doesn't matter what. That's a simple, and then you'll probably be safe. Your ass. You'll probably be okay. You'll probably be able to figure it out if you got somebody with you that knows what's going on. But just don't panic and hold on. Don't let go of that rope. Okay. That's the main thing with the rappelling as well.
I just want to make sure that they're all aligned with.
Essentially, though, with you and your the way I did it in this instance, it doesn't matter who goes first necessarily, as long as you're not concerned about being alone when you go last, right? I was a kid. My dad was in a scary environment with me. We don't know what's going on, what's underneath us. So I'm going first almost every time because he knows we'll get to a ledge. He knows I'll be okay, right? And then it's up to him to get down. And if he falls, he fucks up. At least I'm not dead. At least I'm okay. Yeah. If I had to go second, I'd have to set up my rappel on my own. I'd have to have nobody double check it. All those things. I'd much rather my experienced professional, in the sense, dad does that, right? So most of the times I was going first. And now in my older life, that's not the case. We mix and match. His shoulders are tired. I'll handle the rope. I know a lot more skills than I did in this moment in my life. So it's a much more 50-50 job now. But at the time, he was doing a lot of the heavy lifting in the sense of like, he's setting up the rope. He's figuring out where the safe place is to put that anchor in. He's making sure I tied my knots right. He's making sure I'm ready to go. I understand where I'm going. That I couldn't have done it without him 100%. I wasn't experienced enough at the time. But again, that's like full trust in my dad. I had built that. And so we're in a really tough spot. I'm not comfortable. I'm shivering at the second or third ledge now. I'm actively uncomfortable. Don't know when I'm going to be done, but we're getting through this. We're going to be okay. I trust that my dad's going to help me out here. We're going to get out of this. We get to 4 or 5 rappels in, and these ledges that we keep getting to, they're further away. They're smaller. There's not a good place to stand, or maybe there's not a big enough boulder. Maybe we're going off more to the side of the ledge and finding a weird rock to put the sling on. It's getting harder. We're spending more time searching and looking for the best spot to get down, trying to figure out, is it safe or not? Do we have a long enough rope? So
there's a lot of stipulations.
Very intimidating because we just don't know where the end of this cliff is, essentially, and we know we're in the wrong spot. We shouldn't be doing what we're doing right now, but we have no choice, right?
And you're in the fog.
And we're in the fog in the freezing rain. Again, we're in the shadow of the mountain. I didn't say that part. We're now in the shadow. We're 4 or 5 ledges down, about 500 feet lower than the ridge line. So we're in the shadow, in the rain, in the freezing rain. So it's darker. It's much darker, but the shadow means that it's 5 or 10 degrees colder than it is on the ridge, and you're still exposed to the wind for the most of the degree.
What time of day is this?
It's maybe the middle of the day now. Maybe we're talking lunchtime. I've only had Toblerone chocolate, some granola. That's all I've eaten. That's all the food we got. We got water, but we're running out of water. We're really close to having no water. That's not going to be a problem until maybe the next day. But now, when you run out of water, now every decision matters. Every step better be in the right direction. Every rappel better be right the first time, because coiling that rope, picking that rope up, carrying that rope, doing it again takes a lot of energy out of you. So all that's on our mind. We're cold and hungry, wet. We don't have more water or food after we run out. So we're mindful that if we can't get off the ridge tonight, gets dark, whatever, the weather gets worse, maybe, we are very mindful we don't have the right weather equipment, and we're wet. And we don't have the food or water to really make it another full day if we somehow couldn't get off the third day. So we would have had to call mountain rescue for sure on that third day, the next morning, if we survive the night and don't get hypothermia. But at this point, we've been rappelling 5-6 hours. Each rappel, you're only rappelling 50 to 60 feet, but gotta try to imagine setting the rope up and carrying it and finding these spots and having a conversation. Is this secure? What if we have to go right more? These things take time, and so each rappel is about an hour at least. The more complex ones longer, and we just don't know how many more we got to do. We only have about a dozen slings, so we can only rappel a maximum of 12 times with those pieces of gear for protection. Outside of that, we just have to scramble down. We don't have equipment to keep going down. We might get stranded on a cliff in theory without enough places to get down off that cliff.
Terrifying.
Quite terrifying. And
terrifying.
My dad was aware of this all from the moment we rappelled the first time. I'm 16. This is maybe my second major experience rock climbing on a mountain like this or in this environment for a second kind of day like this, and really putting me to the test. But in the perspective of understanding how serious my situation was, I didn't really understand, I think, until I was 6 or 7 hours in, and we still had no idea where we were, and we did not know how much more we had to go. And I could start to count on one hand the number of pieces of protection we had. That's when I started to ask questions.
You're like,
are we going the right way? You know, I had asked that before, but like, are you confident this is definitely going to lead to the way we're going? We want to go. You know, I know we thought this was not the escape route, but is it the one next to it, or are we 2 routes over?
And
and we just don't know. Just don't know. That's the doubt is terrifying.
And you know for sure, I'm nowhere near where we need to be, and we're running real low.
I can definitely tell you too, I'm not happy. I am absolutely shivering to my bone-chilling core. Yeah. I mean, I could describe to you, my fucking underwear was frozen solid. I remember the feeling of breaking my underwear over my legs at the car later when we survive and get back. Spoiler alert. But like I remember I didn't wear that underwear ever. I broke it. I broke it over like a piece of paper, not piece of paper, like a piece of ice. You break over your leg or something. I mean, that's how cold we were by the end. By the time we get done and we're taking off our clothes at our car, which is not exposed to the elements like that, it's still frozen like a block of ice.
Playing with the elements like that is
and so tough. You're trying to make life-changing decisions about, you know, am I going to make it to the spot or not? Am I going to make it around that rock and make it to that ledge? And you are fucking freezing, miserable, shivering, trying to have a conversation about, is it safe or not? Should I do this? Do you trust this? Really hard, really tough, really, really pushed my ability to stay calm and keep it together.
So then you're getting down to this mountain. You're getting down this mountain. You're running low on supplies. At what moment did you think like, all right, Dad, are we making this out alive?
So I think that once I had the conversation about, I realized we only have a certain number of pieces of equipment left for protection. You know, I don't feel like we're getting close personally. I felt pretty defeated.
Yeah.
And so I started asking a lot more hard questions about, you know, how much more can we do? Realistically, how many more rappels can we do? And then when you start hearing the answers to those questions, like five lengths of my rope, we can keep going. You know, that's a real number. That's 500 feet we can go, and then we're stuck. You know, that kind of situation. That's what's on our head. So that's when I started to feel like, will I get out tonight? You know, I don't think I was ever doubtful that I was going to die, but it definitely could have happened if the right variables continued, you know?
Yeah.
If I have to stay out there that night, I'm soaking wet, frozen clothes, hypothermia, real possibility. Maybe I do get hypothermia. Maybe I don't die, but I'm definitely mountain rescue's got to get us. I'm not going to kike out of there. It's just going to have frostbite on my fingers and my toes. I'm not going to be able to hold the rope. So these are all things that I'm starting to consider, like what happens if that happens. That's what's going to happen. And that's really scary to keep that repressed and just keep climbing.
Especially at what how old were you? 16?
16, yeah. 16. And I've never really been in an environment like where I'm considering what happens tomorrow if we don't get out of this, or what happens in the next few hours even. Like, I mean, that was that immediate, but it wasn't like I was going to die in that moment. I was going to die in 6 hours. And that was scary. That idea that like, if this doesn't go our way, I mean, like this
could be it.
This could be it, or like, God, I don't think it would be it. You know, people have died in hiking in those time of year and on those mountains, and they unfortunately claim people's lives every year. But it's not like the Himalayas. You know, it'd be a pretty freak circumstance that we got trapped in that weather event and we went the wrong way. We didn't have immense equipment to get down. I mean, a lot of things would have had to happen, but it had started. You know, that story you hear on TV about they didn't have the right equipment and they went the wrong way and they got stuck. That was us. We were in that environment, and I was living in shivering hypothermic almost. So I definitely considered a lot of that in that moment. But I definitely don't remember exactly what rappel, but it was after I had that conversation with my father. The weather began. It stopped raining at least. The wind was brutal. And we were already soaking wet. Everything is absolutely soaking wet.
It's burning.
But
it's cold.
The fog starts to become less dense. And we're low enough in elevation that it's not clinging to like the cliffs, right? So we could see 50 to 40 feet instead of 10 down in front of us.
Better.
You know, where we're rappelling now, there's bigger expanses between the ledges. So we can't always see the next ledge, but we know we're getting towards the bottom of the ridge at least.
Yeah.
We're not towards the top. We're on the second half at least, right? So that was a nice sign. But then there was one instance where the clouds, it was almost like Lord of the Rings, like Gandalf parted the clouds enough that we could see into the valley below, maybe like 1,000 meters of elevation underneath us, into where the campsite, the field past the campsite. And we recognized the fields and we're like, we got to be really close. That doesn't look that far away. Those are definitely the fields past the campsite. We can't see the campsite. We can't see the trails underneath because of the fog. But there's the gap that we can see. We have come down real far. We're getting really close. That's a really good sign. We got about 2 or 3 slings left, right? It's no longer raining, but we're still in horrible shape, really old. And we get to a ledge that has a huge boulder right in the middle of a stream. Right in the middle of a stream running over the cliff like a waterfall. And that's the only rock big enough that we can put our protection around. And so that therefore means we have to go into the creek. I don't want to go into the freezing water already. It's finally stopped raining. Now I'm going into this creek,
into the cold water.
Standing in the creek, setting up in the creek, running over my legs and my feet that have already been hypothermic. Oh man, that was a tough memory. I remember that really well. And we rappelled down a waterfall, one of my last rappels, maybe the second to last or third to last. And that one was an epic rappel.
Is the water falling?
Splashing onto my body as I'm rappelling down. I'm getting soaking wet. It was the only way down. It was that or we called it mountain rescue.
And mountain rescue is.
And I wanted to go to my car, bro. I didn't want to call mountain rescue. I was almost there. I had saw the gap.
Yeah.
So we were motivated, right?
Yeah.
We do, and also, maybe we would have tried a riskier piece of protection. Let's say, I say now. There was nowhere else to do it, but that's all about context and what we had experienced beforehand and knowing what equipment we had. We knew we only had a few slings. We knew we were getting close. Maybe we don't see that break in the clouds. Maybe we don't use that boulder. Maybe we use a worse one. Maybe we're in a different ledge, a different spot. It's all, who knows? But I guess my memory would say that was the best piece. That was the only one we really considered. And that was a no-brainer at that point because we knew we were getting close. Yeah. And if we just get down this ledge, maybe it's the next one. We're that close. We thought we were that close. So we did that. Get down to this ledge, and it wasn't the last one. Funny enough. So we get down. I don't know if it was the second to last ledge or if it was the last ledge. That will be my memory fails me. But I'm not going to forget the conversation and the experience. And I alluded to this earlier where you have to trust gear and pieces of equipment that are not yours, that are old, that are, who knows how they put it in, who knows what it's seen, who knows if they fell or not on it, who knows if they tested it, who knows. That's the end of the story, right? But you don't have many choices, right? So we're on this cliff edge, similar situation. There's a large boulder. It's kind of going next to a creek. The other option is in the creek again. We really would rather not do that again. We're still miserable. And so my dad has this conversation with me where he says, hey, there's this sling. There's this really old sling wrapped around this boulder next to the creek. It's a green and white sling, I believe, if I remember the color right. Maybe that's my memory again, just from filling in the blank. Yeah. But I remember like that old kind of like 90s, early 2000s, like neon pattern. Think about like the water cups or the fleece sweaters. It's that pattern.
Yeah,
that's the pattern of it. You can imagine it, right? It's not white and green, still fresh. It's lime faded green.
It's retro.
It's gray white.
Retro.
It's peeling a little bit on the edges of the sling, where it's nylon, right? That's the material. Yeah. It's like a webbed nylon. It's supposed to be incredibly durable. But they have a shelf life. You don't keep them in a room temperature environment for more than a few days,
much less
a few years. Yeah,
and so water running on it, temperature change, climate change.
Absolutely,
rope outside.
Absolutely, right. I'm living this awful weather. It's killing me. It's literally killing me. So I'm at this rock, and my dad's talking to me about this is our choices. We could do this waterfall rappel again. That's a sketchier setup, or we could. Use our last sling. That's key. Use our last piece of protection that we have with us. And our last piece of gear to get down with.
Now, how far are you from the ground?
We think this is the last one. And if it's not, we think even if it's not, that it's not steep enough at that point and it's starting to become dry enough that we might be able to climb down, or we could wait long enough that we could climb down. We'd be real miserable. We would have no food or water left by the time we get down. It might be dark when we get out. But we're at the realization that we could probably get out tonight, even if we never want to rock climb ever again.
Yeah.
And so that was really, really, really nice. That feeling motivated us a lot. And when we were talking about whether or not we were going to use this protection, that was this ancient sling wrapped around this boulder, my dad brings to my attention, we have one left. I knew we had only a couple left. He had brought it up before, but he brings to my attention, we have one left. So we have one choice here outside of using that sling.
Yeah.
We use this thing. And he points to it and we look at it and he's
afraid.
And it also goes back to me talking about never just trusting somebody blindly, no matter who they are. And I have so much trust from my dad. And this was a huge moment for learning for me. And it was almost like a coming of age moment in a way. I had like lived this awful experience. We're so close to being done, we think. And we're at this last hurdle and we have to make one more tough decision about our safety and what are we going to do? How is this the right decision? And my dad looked at me and he said, this is dangerous. This is old. I don't know how old this is. I don't know if this is going to hold our weight. You're definitely lighter than me. And I think you'll be fine. I have to go after you though. And you'll have a good idea. And I want to talk to you about if you think this is secure. Would you rather do our last piece of protection? Understand the ramifications of that. Understand what we might have to do. And do you want to consider that or do you want to trust this? What do you think? What do you think is the safer or the best option? And we had a conversation about trusting the old piece of protection and how much of a, let's say, how incentivizing it was to do that, although the risk involved. And we chose to do that together. And that conversation and that doubt that I had where my dad actively asked me to question him and him wanting to do that and ask, give me a different perspective. Why shouldn't we? Or why would I do this? Yeah. He wanted my opinion there, not as like as I'm going to teach him or this is my son. I was his climbing partner right there at that moment, and that was really cool. And that experience was, I'm never going to forget that conversation, and we trusted it and it was fine. It really wasn't that big a deal, but I remember looking at it and touching it and talking about it, and it was a big deal. It was a big deal after what we went through. And we get down after that rappel. It was the last one. So that was awesome. We finally get to somewhat level ground and we start hiking out. It's still foggy, but the fog starts to kind of clear and things get better. And we get to the campsite, which has a telephone and two people working there. It's a couple. They just got married. They're like 30-year-old English people, Scottish people. And we haven't seen like civilization in 3 days at this point, basically 2.5. We have a car 2 miles up the road from there that has a flat tire still. Don't have any idea how we're going to fix that car. We don't have clothes to change into other than maybe one pair of pants. That's it. Like we have warm clothing for our base layer. No outdoor clothing. We can't really sleep in our car. But we got to figure that out, right? So and all of our gear that we do have that is meant for this stuff, outdoor or nighttime or any kind of that, it's soaking wet. It's absolutely drenched and it's going to freeze. So it just doesn't matter.
It's cooked.
And so we really need to get help. So we go to this campsite, and this is where the people you meet and the memories you make from the people, they'll never leave you. And that's the thing I hold on to even more is they have a phone booth, has a door you can close. So my dad's like, sit in here. You have protection from the wind. Yeah. So I sat in the phone booth and he went inside the shack that was like the little campsite store where you could get like, butter or, spikes for your tent to keep it in the ground, whatnot, little things. And we asked to use their computer to try to look up a number or something we could call. And he's in there for like a half hour. So I'm just sitting in the phone booth by myself in the middle of the North Atlantic coast, just traumatized, just absolutely crushed.
And you're thinking
just
like,
so glad I'm not going to be on a mountain frozen to death. I'm just so glad I'm going to be okay. Maybe in a few hours I'll be warm. That's great. That's good enough for me. So I'm okay. I'm just happy I'm not in the elements. I'm in a little phone booth. And he comes out, and I'm this guy is a skinny white dude, huge smile on his face, no beard. He had like a very Scottish look to him, I guess, without the beard. A very skinny, pale white dude, huge smile, blonde hair. He comes up to us, and he's got this thick accent, and he's like, "You guys are from New York?" And I can't. I'm gonna butcher the accent.
Nah, I need you to drop the accent.
I can't do it.
You were about to.
I was, but I'm gonna do it such a disservice. You can't understand them. The Scottish people, like I watch so much soccer. I love British people. There's so many different dialects. Northern
Give me
Highland
your best Scottish.
It's not even English, bro. They slur words together. It's very difficult to understand because they have a lot of jargon and terms that are unique to British slang. Okay. Not even just English, and it's very difficult sometimes to follow like Highland Scottish English. Right. They got to talk slow. I mean, we're talking like when you're from Mexico and you meet someone from like Patagonia. And like, yes, you speak Spanish, but they both are, it's tough, Tough, yeah. And it's not like it's that bad, but they're talking quick. We're exhausted and just trained, and they're so excited to talk to us. And ends up that not only do they know where we live in New York, the place I grew up, Poughkeepsie, they have family that lives there. They married into a family, American, that had lived in Poughkeepsie his whole life. Their sister had moved to Poughkeepsie. They visited her every year there. They knew the places me and my dad had grown to rock climb. They had hiked there before. All they wanted to do was talk to us about them being there where we were from. And they were just so accommodating. They had this beautiful truck that they packed all our stuff in. They threw us in the back of it. They didn't have back seats. It was a 2-person truck. So they threw us in the back. They drove us to our car, just talking to, they called the people that could fix our car, the local repair place on the island that would meet us there 2 hours earlier, see if they could fix it for us before the Avis people would come. I mean, they were just so helpful. They were so...
Avis in Scotland?
Yeah, whatever you'd call Avis. That's what I'm referring to it as. But so it's this amazing moment of human, I'm going to help you, bro. Like, we're freezing to death. Of course, I know where you live. Of course, I'll help you. You know,
that just made it
that
even
kindness
easier.
was just so genuine and unlike any kind of American niceness. Yeah, just this ability to connect at such a basic level. Like, let me help you because I know your hometown. Let me do everything I can to help you. Maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it's just how they were raised. But
no, it's a connectivity though.
It felt like they were really going for us to help us. And again, I'm about to finish.
I mean, I was about to say, I feel like it's a connectivity though, because I feel like anytime that you can connect with someone in some way, you're gonna go a little bit more for them. You know, you're just gonna give them the extra words, like, I know you, like,
absolutely. And these guys, they hadn't even done the climbing my dad had done before. They lived there their whole life, but they had felt connected to us. They had done the ridges, that they had climbed these mountains. They had lived in these kind of experienced weather events, and they understood what we had been through. And so that was neat. We were able to talk about what we had just gone through with people that really appreciated it. And they were like, wow, I'm glad you guys are okay. And they had even lost a family member distantly to climbing on these mountains. So, I mean, it was really grounding for them and to be able to help us escape that. And it was just a really cool moment. And so cut that off. Those guys leave. They go back to their campsite. We finally change our clothes. We sit in the car. We got heat for the first time in days, and we're feeling great. And the people are on their way from the local island repair place, just a car repair place. And the AOC people have been contacted. They're like 6 hours out. They're deep. They're really far away. And so our hope is that maybe this guy can figure out, maybe he's got a special tool to get this locking lug nut off. And we're waiting for him. Comes another really thick Scottish accent. What are you guys doing out here? You know, like, couldn't believe who we were. Couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Absolutely just fascinated by who we were as people. And why the fuck we were there. Just could not wrap his head around it.
Sense.
He's like, you just left us here? Like, what are you doing here? Why'd you call me? What? Yeah. You couldn't take this thing off? And he's like, isn't there just the locking lug nut key next to the tire kit that you guys had in the car? And we were like, yeah, we looked there. The spot for it exists, but the key is not there. And he's like, well, yeah, but if you lift up this panel, lifts this panel up that we couldn't see because it's like this latch you lifted. Yeah. Fucking secret compartment, keys inside. Whole time we could have just changed the tire ourselves, driven to the fucking campsite, started at a different time. None of that stuff would have ever happened. But because of our panic and not being able to find that locking, we have one day. We're never going to be here again.
We gotta go.
We never would have died. We'd never been close to dying. We never would have repelled. We would never have seen those northern lights. We would have never met those people that saved us. We would have never met that guy that just made us realize, just take a second and take your time.
The tire pop was
the panic, the initial. That
was the beginning.
God or divine.
Yeah,
that gave me that moment.
What do you call it? The what's the word where it's the you're setting up for, like, you already having a bad start to what is to come. What is it called?
Oh, like the foreshadowing? Yeah.
In a sense, kind of like a foreshadowing.
I mean, it definitely was like a very dark undertone that led on to just worse until it got to this crazy climax, and we overcame it, and we bowed through it. It's a story that, if you ask my dad to tell you the story, he'll tell you different jokes or different moments he remembers, but it's the same story. We lived that together. And nobody else did, and nobody else experienced those things.
Cheers to you.
No matter how much you climb or do that, you might create a story like that. You might meet people that have a better one. They might have actually almost died, really. They might have broke a leg. They might have done something twice as hard. But it's that common undertone that, like, bonds us all, and that seeking other amazing people and stories and experiences, that's what pushed me to keep doing it even after almost freezing to death.
That's amazing. I feel like at some point one day I can see myself climbing a mountain. I feel like if I do it once.
Well, me and Dylan have a plan, so we're gonna do Cavell. Dylan's inspired me again, so I go through these peaks and valleys. My previous job, I was coaching and climbing, and I got so burnt out. It was my life from 12 to 24. I took a break, and when I started working with Dylan, I hadn't climbed seriously or considered doing a climb in over a year. I'm not in climbing shape, and I started running about a month ago. He convinced me that we're going to do a climb in Canada of some kind. He wants to do a big mountain. He wants to do a peak with me. He's heard me talk all about these things many times. And he wants to do one. He wants that experience, and he knows I'm my dad to him. I'm the outlet. I have the gear. I have everything. I have the knowledge. I could get us there. And it's just about having somebody that wants to do it with you. And I never had somebody that wanted to do it with me other than my dad. And my dad's 60. He can't do this thing so much anymore. He can't do the same difficulties anymore, the same challenges we would have wanted to do. Yeah. It's not that I don't do it with him and we don't plan on these things still, but to do Edith Cavell again, that wasn't a choice, I think. And for me now, it's become a really big motivator, I think, like whether long-term I'm with this at the same job, working with Dylan, like I know Dylan's about it and I know I want it. And I know that for me to do that and achieve that goal with Dylan, without my dad, that would be a lot for me. That's my next one. That's the one I'm doing. And I'm doing it next summer. You know what though? You only need a couple $1,000s for the whole trip, round trip, like total, like you would probably at most spend $2,000. And that's if you're buying all the stuff on your own, which you don't have to do. Cause I got a lot of it, like a lot other than the clothing you need, which is like a half of the cost maybe. You could do it with us.
I might have to come out there.
All you got to do is be motivated, dude.
Can I be a cameraman?
Yeah, absolutely. But, at the end of the day, the more people you bring on these trips with you, the safer it becomes. And the more these connections and moments, these experiences that you just can't create without somebody like yourself or a unique person, a perspective. I would love to be in Canada on the side of a mountain and meet some random fucking stranger with you. The kind of conversations you have are one in a lifetime. That's why you do it. You share those moments with those people, and then maybe you pass that down to somebody else, and you give them that experience in a whole new way. You don't have to go to a mountain. Maybe you go to a gym. You take them to a climbing gym like Dylan did with you. Yeah. And you introduce this whole world to them.
That's funny. I've actually done that to two of my friends. One of them from back home. He never been to it. Took one of my boys out here that has been going, and they love it, man. They were like, yo, thank you for like putting me onto this, and they're very thrilled and excited about it. So like the same joy and excitement that I got to see that on their face and see them grasping on, I'm like, this is something I feel like a lot of people should definitely like.
It's so rewarding.
Like looking at it from the outside, looking in, it's like, you're climbing rock. You're like, why are you doing that? You're dumb. You want to die. But once you actually get up on that rock,
it's just about you and your own personal struggle.
And when you get up there and you're really like, wait, it's me. Like why can't I climb up there?
There's no reason to rock climb. There is no point, and there is no way to really measure success or failure. And that's, I think, what I was elaborating to with my ability to succeed and fail comes from this. Getting to the full summit of a mountain you plan on climbing for a full 4 years, you've tried already, and you tried a second time, you fail, and it's all you think about. It's like your dream, and you failed at the last hurdle. But for me, it's not a failure. It's the experience. It's training and going the places you train and meeting the people that teach you the things you learn, taking those skills with you, formulating those memories, doing something that makes you feel free and alive and achieve something that you could never have imagined before you set out on that goal. Yeah. And it's so empowering. It's so freeing. And you do 10 things that you never would have thought of that you value more.
That's insane, dog.
It's true.
It's true?
It's true. It really is. And, like, I guess this is my last little thing about climbing. We can kind of end it, A lot of my first impressions of people have been through rock climbing. And I think you learn a lot about someone's moral character about rock climbing when they rock climb. Doesn't matter how good they are. It does not matter what you're climbing. Everybody that starts out, they go on the party wall. They go on the easy wall. Yeah. Little kiddie holds, or maybe the easy climb with a nice little slope, right? My first time I ever met my girlfriend, or my girlfriend ever met my dad, I took her ice climbing. We had been together for 2 months. 3 months. I'm dragging her around to the middle of the Adirondack Mountains in the middle of the woods, 3 hours away from our college with my dad, who's meeting us there at 6 a.m. We're in it, And it was so challenging, and she was so intimidated that, and I say this so positive because I can't tell the whole story right now, but she was halfway up that ice wall doing her first ever rock climb or ice climb, first time ever meeting my father, and she almost had a mental breakdown, almost tears of like frustration. I can't do this, and she did not give up. And she focused up, and she battled through it, and she finished it, and she did it all on her own. I didn't have to coax her. My dad calmed her down a little bit, calm down, take a deep breath. You got this.
Yeah, that's true.
That's it though. The rest was her. She figured it out, and she showed fortitude and strength that it's not about how big your muscle is or the fact that it was hard. She faced this adversity. She faced this struggle, and she found a way to conquer it, and she stayed just this thing that I value so much, right? And I think it says a lot about someone's personality.
Yes.
In a lot of circumstances outside of when things get tough and it's not going good for you, how do you handle it?
Yeah.
And whether that's and even if you fail, how do you handle that failure? You know, that's so important for life.
Well, look, we're gonna go through a quick speed round. Speed round. Now, I'm gonna call this the Mount Rushmore games.
I like it.
All right.
Mount Rushmore.
Now, Mount Rushmore is a monument.
I like
it's
it
not
though.
A mountain.
I'm a history guy too. You kind of got overlap.
Yeah,
there,
that's what I'm saying.
History degree, climber. I'm right there.
You know, so
we're gonna talk about the guy that made it was the Ku Klux Klan member. He's a little racist.
Yo. Well, I shouldn't be. No, we're not. We're gonna count this Mount Stefan.
Yeah, let's go. So how about we do? Let's name it. Let's do Mount Algonquin. That's one of the first mountains I ever climbed in the Adirondacks. It's a 4,000 footer. So you escape the tree line, but you don't do any rock climbing. It's named after. It's the second tallest in New York State. Algonquin is a Native American name. It's named after the tribe, the Algonquin tribe, that was native to the Adirondack region. And it's a colloquial name. It's stayed in that area ever since. Algonquin, you know, it's named after that mountain. It's named after those people, and it's still there, still that name. And a certain person, maybe a president, might want to change the names for some of those places, but you know, it's still not Algonquin to me, and it always will be because that's the fucking name.
Mount Algonquin.
Hell yeah, for the people.
Game. We doing that. I like that. You really just taught me about that.
I don't like Mount Rushmore. It's too much white supremacy there for me.
That is true. There's a lot of them out there, but hey,
they picked some interesting people.
Yeah, of course. Listen, what is your Mount Algonquin of sandwiches?
Of sandwiches, sure. BLT.
Okay,
bacon, lettuce, and tomato. I love mayo. I love bacon. Give me some good bacon. And I'm not crazy about the lettuce, but you gotta have something. I guess.
Got you. You gotta have some greens.
You can just have bacon and mayo.
So you got You said a BLT.
Yep.
Second.
If I had to pick another sandwich, a burger. Can I count that? It's a sandwich. Two pieces of bread and a piece of meat in the middle.
We'll do three.
I'm not a big sandwich guy because I'm a gluten-free person. I developed an allergy. I used to eat, McDonald's and Wendy's, and that's all my diet was. And I used to just exercise constantly, so it didn't matter. But when I went to college, I developed this allergy. Can't eat gluten anymore. So I actually eat like a lot of steak by itself and like steak and fries. Like I would way rather have that than a sandwich.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn. Would you, if you put a bunch of fries over a steak with fries on the bottom, does that make it a sandwich?
Maybe to me.
Maybe to you.
I got my cars in the meat in the middle.
What are your Mount Rushmore of TV shows right now? Number 3.
Mount Algonquin. No, you're good. TV shows, I'm not. It's gonna sound nerdy, but I'm a live in the moment kind of guy. I really enjoy watching sports, like live sports. I don't rewatch sporting events that I've seen or been to, but I would way rather watch a sport that I'm invested in somewhat, maybe even a little bit, maybe a story, a person, something like that, than I am into a TV show. I'm a big movie film guy. Like I do like well-made movies. I like a really well-made TV show, like like a Band of Brothers. I love the 10-episode movie-like storytelling, but that's not a TV show. I guess I wouldn't call that, and that's not new. Mm-hmm. So I guess new. The last thing that I would have watched, I don't even know. Like I don't watch anything new. Bro. All right, Parks and Rec.
Then do
classic Parks and Rec.
You said Parks and Rec.
That's my go-to. Whenever I'm bored, I don't have anything to do, I watch Parks and Rec. It just makes me laugh. Keeps it light.
Okay. All right, Parks.
So Abbott Elementary, I've watched some episodes of that.
Abbott Elementary. Hey.
I also I'm going to be a teacher one day, hopefully. So I get I coach kids and I dealt with a lot of kids in my life. So I really relate to that, dealing with young children and how silly they can be.
Have you watched a couple seasons, 1 or 2 seasons?
I was just random episodes. My girlfriend's watched every episode, so I've seen it through correlation.
So who would you say you resonate with the most on that show? Like who would be your character on Abbott?
I don't know their names off the top of my head, but I didn't think I've had a conversation with you about the kid who asks his teacher what happens when he eats the watermelon seed. What happens about that?
Yeah.
And he gives him the answer. Well, if as long as it doesn't have this, then it's not going to grow. You're fine. And then he says, well, I did do that. And so then he's like, all right, let's go to the nurse. I feel like that summarizes my entire existence with children and dealing with young children. It's like, that's me. I feel like I try to be as rational and be as grounded with them as I can be, but then they just remind you that they're fucking kids. Yeah. And it's so silly. And
so then you'd be Gregory.
I think I'd be Greg.
Hey!
Yeah, because I'm always trying to be like relate to these kids like they're a fucking 18-year-old. They're gonna understand this deep moral goal that we're trying to achieve together or whatever. And then they're like, yeah, but this girl in my class is cute. I just want to go to the dance with her. It's like, why is that important to you or whatever? You know, just like the picture of the world to them is not the same, and they don't have that perspective, and that's funny sometimes. You know,
that's cool. All right. Top 3 Mount Algonquin of climbing destinations
I've been to or I want to go to.
That you want to go to.
I've definitely always wanted to go to where there's this famous climber named Adam Ondra. If I had to number the most famous climbers, he's probably number 3. He's also an Eastern European guy. He grew up in somewhere in the Czech Republic, and he climbs on sandstone, really unique rock that you can't use the same kind of equipment, metal equipment that we use. They tie these special knots, and they're special shapes. And these shapes, made of fabric and material, they grip the rock as tight as some of the metal gear. And it's this whole art that these Eastern European climbers have learned to climb on sandstone. And I definitely would love to do that. That'd be amazing to just like hire somebody. I could never learn, I think. It's really you think trusting our equipment's scary. I mean, imagine getting a piece of hemp rope, tying a certain knot and saying, I'm going to hold 500 pounds of my weight off of this or whatever. I mean, it's just way different. The kind of equipment sophistication, it's just simple friction, quite literally, with different material and a really, really loose and fragile rock that breaks away on the simplest friction and touch. So that would be exhilarating and also very unique and a cool thing to learn. I've always wanted to do that. The other thing I've always wanted to do, I've always wanted to deep water solo somewhere really cool. So deep water soloing is rock climbing over a huge body of water that's like deep enough that you could fall into. So you're not really in theory worried about falling. Climb pretty far and jump down or top out. And there's some amazing places in the Galapagos in Spain that you could hire a boat or you could even swim to. You could kayak to, and you're climbing on these spires overlooking the Straits of Gibraltar and the coast of Spain, and you're climbing these spires hundreds of feet, and you just jump into the water or you top out. Or it's beautiful.
You have to top out, or you just
it depends on the climb. It all depends on the climb. So if I'm bouldering, let's say I'm climbing in an outdoor environment and I have a pad underneath me, I would way rather climb on top of that wall than jump down. Yeah. In a controlled way, in an uncontrolled way, even with perfect pad protection underneath me outside. There could be roots on the ground. There could be rocks slightly sticking at different angles underneath my pad, so that when I land on that pad, it might not be the flat part of the pad. It might be on the rock underneath the pad. It might be on the root underneath the pad, and I might break my leg. I might break my ankle.
On the way down.
But if I top out, I just stand up at the top of the rock and I climb back down the other side, or I walk down, and there's no falling, there's no jumping. So in theory, it's much safer, but it's also the pinnacle or the climax of the most dangerous part. Right? You're climbing the highest you are. You're the most exposed. You're also putting your body in a position to go over the lip in a way that if you were to fall in that position, you're the most exposed for like injury because you're going to fall on your back and or your head. Right? So if you don't top out in that position, which is easy to do, but you fuck up, you're going to fall however far you go onto the pad with uneven ground.
Yeah.
So it's the scariest, but also like the best thrill. When you send and top out a boulder outside, especially one that's like at your strength limit, because when you're climbing on a boulder, maybe it's very similar to powerlifting. It's always the analogy I give for bouldering, inside or out. You're usually doing really tight and physical, really powerful movement, maybe sometimes aggressively, dynamically jumping, maybe even, and catching, doing things that you would absolutely not want to fall or absolutely not would want to rock underneath you or something like that. But if you're climbing at your absolute maximum, you are going to be squeezing as hard as you possibly can, maybe slipping, maybe not holding on, maybe not getting that next hold. And then what happens? You got to fall. You got to land on the ground awkwardly, and it's really intimidating. Yeah. You literally learn how to fall through practicing it, and you need spotters in certain situations, and you can't do certain climbs on your own, and there's all kinds of etiquette. But there's no better thrill than climbing a climb at your capacity, struggling, absolutely fucking about to give in and getting it and getting over that ledge and not falling and being like, holy fucking shit, I did it.
I just did that.
Yeah. It's just unreal. And nobody can take that from you. It's just you that did that. It doesn't matter how hard it was for somebody else. You did that. Yeah.
I see that. Damn. My boy. Mm-hmm. My boy came through and dropped some gems on us. I definitely appreciate you coming though.
I just like talking about rock climbing.
I learned about a little bit more about rock climbing, which The sport is it's on the rise. I'm telling you guys, check it out.
Call a gym near you. Book a staff
go to the gym, exactly, or just hit me up. We going out. We going to the gym.
Hell yeah, dude.
And then if you
I'm going climbing tomorrow with Dylan.
If you got balls, yeah, they're going climbing in the outside.
I think you're coming tomorrow. I think you're coming with us. We're gonna pick an easy spot so you can come. On the island.
I got plans that I
got. After you might.
Do you have like any videos or anything?
I can't show them here. I definitely can. I have. I used to have a TikTok where I would record a lot of my climbing in my later part of my climbing in like when I was coaching.
Yeah.
Now I don't have video of like the mountains, unfortunately. I was doing those in like the mid 2010s.
Yeah.
So GoPro's new. Yeah. And the video cameras are just not the same. I'm shooting a lot of these pictures you'll see on like my iPhone 6C and things like that. You know, we're talking older in that respect. But if you're talking about like videos climbing outside, like I have places on the island, bouldering that we can go. I got all kinds of stuff. Absolutely.
Got you.
I have so many videos and pictures.
Definitely want to plug your TikTok or your.
Oh no, I don't post anymore. I took a really big break. Like I said, you know, I stepped away when I was managing and coaching at the same time. It had become so much of a job that I stopped doing climbing videos and going out on my own and doing the passionate thing. Yeah. It's how you started to become a job. And it's until I found Dylan again with working in a new job. And it really re-sparked it for me. But that's also though, like why Dylan's always the one out here chatting about climbing. I gave him the bug. I taught him how to lead climb. He got the membership after that and just totally, it became, he is a climber now. Yeah. You know, he's more of indebted to the gym community in that environment than I am now that I've stepped away from working in it. And he probably will only get more indebted and more knowledgeable, where I'm going to probably stay only planning on doing, in my head, big mountains every once in a while, doing it casually. For me, that's where I want to be at. And maybe one day I'll go back to coaching it and maybe not at a high level, like as a lead of a level of like, I used to coach 18 and 19-year-olds in collegiate level, which they're climbing things that I could never dream of climbing. And I won't be able to climb because I should have started 7 years ago kind of thing. But I also don't want to work as hard to be that and climb that.
Yeah.
And it's not that I have to do that to coach those kids, but that's a huge thing. If you want to be an elite rock climbing coach, you got to be able to do a lot of these really, really coordinated technical things. And that's not where my interest lies. My interest lies in achieving the next mountain, meeting new people, experiencing a new place, and using those skills to do that, not to be the best.
Yeah. That's
what I found is more important to me, though. And I used to come from that environment of competition. You know, I swam, I did these sports. I love competition. I still do. But I think for me, it's that perspective. Climbing has made me much more holistic of what do I value.
Yeah. Shit, man. Damn, I love that. You kind of closed it out for me.
Amen, bro.
That was beautiful.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I appreciate letting me ramble about rock climbing.
Definitely. Thank you for coming and blessing the unwanted feedback with your presence.
Definitely did unwanted rock climbing talk.
You know, but we all learned about different, rock climbing techniques and different situations and how he handled it and how he faced adversity and he's able to get through that at 16 years old. Like, trust me, at 16 years old, first of all, I wouldn't be up there at 16. I'm letting you know.
Climbing is just the foil for it, you know. Like, I think for me, the story that I told and all of the background I built is just so you guys could appreciate the things that I take away from climbing. It's cool that I do it and I do those experiences while I climb. But you could do these things, doing other hobbies and activities that might not be as extreme. I think what everybody can connect to is that goal, achieving a goal, the personal struggle. Everybody has those things. And that's how I deal with my 9 to 5, my anxiety, or how do I express myself? I know that's what makes me feel connected and happy is when I do things like that. So,
I'm clapping it up for you, dog.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. I feel like I'm very welcome. Thank you, Steph.
Yes, thank you. But thank you for blessing us again with your presence on the Unwanted Feedback. Definitely check out some rock climbing videos, some bouldering. I'm telling you, once you see it, it may spark that interest. You might go
look up professional rock climbing. Just Google it. Look it up on YouTube. There's lots of free content. All the professional stuff is on YouTube for free. It's really easy to see, and you don't even have to understand what's going on. You'll pick it up as you go. It's very easy to understand if you're watching the competitive side. And
for sure,
it's a ton of fun. It's very entertaining, and you'll learn the names, and you'll maybe get the bug.
Definitely. Well, thank you again. We made it through another week of Unwanted Feedback, where again you didn't ask for our opinions, but we still gave it anyway. It's your boy Steph, my guy Ian.
Thanks again, Steph.
Thank you. It's been a great talk. You know we love you. We'll be back next week. Episode. What was we said? This was
22. But I got a better memory than you about your episodes.
I swear, every time, the beginning and the end, I forget what number we're on.
I don't believe you.
You know,
you got a lot of talking in between, a lot of listening. You do.
Yeah, we just
can't remember everything,
That's
bro.
all it is.
It's pot for you. Yeah, it's pot for you.
Yeah, he's my boy. Hey,
stay off those pre-rolls.
Yeah, I'm saying, stay off the rolls. But man, listen, thank you again, and I want to feedback, people. We love you. We out.